vaccines work.
Well, of course, I'm not saying they don't, but like,
Wait.
it just seems like you're setting yourself up for a constant goalpost moving in terms of getting rid of masks.
Yeah, it took me like an hour to get my COVID vaccine. If I had to do that once every 6 months for the rest of my life for free, that like wouldn't even be that big of a deal. It's like it's not my preference.
Well, like, no, I'm not saying that it is a big deal. I'm saying you're setting yourself up for a situation to constantly say, oh, well, we just need to wear masks till we get the boosters. And then, well, we just need to wear them till we get booster 2 and booster 3 and booster 4.
First off, this is a slippery slope fallacy. Hang on.
No,
hold on. How is this a slippery slope fallacy when we saw 2 weeks to slow the spread turn into 3 shots to feed your family? How is it a slippery slope fallacy when over the past 18 months, the goalpost has moved every 2 weeks? The CDC hasn't enforced their own rules and mandates. The World Health Organization would report something in June, invalidate it in July, report it in August, invalidate it in December.
Oh yeah, Sun Tzu said poo poo pee pee.
I think Vincent made a
So
more
take
compelling
that.
argument.
Unironically, hang on. It sounds like the point you're trying to make is that wearing masks and receiving a booster shot is supporting evidence for that we will never stop taking vaccines every 6 months.
No, it's like the flu vaccine. You get one once a year. Like I don't. Why is it so
Which I would do, by the way, and if that like solved COVID and it like got eradicated, that would be worth it. So I don't even know what you're.
Well, clearly all the advice from the public health experts globally over the past 18 months hasn't solved the problem. Why would we continue trusting them for every fucking 6 months?
And it's helped, by the way.
Yeah, if you look at a case study of like, I don't know the exact numbers, but I looked at it like a month ago, like the U.S. versus like all the other countries taking it seriously over in like Europe or whatever, like their numbers are going down because more of their population is getting vaccinated and they're opening up more stuff. So if the concern is that we're gonna just have to keep wearing masks indefinitely, yeah, maybe if people just don't take the vaccine, we'll have to wear masks indefinitely. And you know what? Hot take, I prefer people with masks. I live in Alaska. There are a lot of ugly fucking dudes up here that don't wash their faces. I'd rather see a mask that someone left in their pocket that's got all grease sweat on it than see a pimply ass bearded dude. Okay.
Okay, so guys, people live more in cities now and stuff like that. So like being in close proximity to each other, like it's important to not spread diseases. And with all the isolating like procedures and stuff we've done because of COVID, we've pretty much squashed the flu. So that's like an indicator of like these things do work.
See, this is something that I talked about 2 days ago when I was in here.
I'm responding to like 10 points here.
Go ahead.
If we're moving the goalpost and masks are like becoming a common thing, that's not how it works. If people just culturally use masks when they are sick, the effectiveness of masks is there. It's just the fact that people who are sick are refusing to wear masks makes them pretty much irrelevant. And it's frustrating that people aren't willing to like take that.
Oh, hold on. There was a girl working at a pharmacy that my mother went to. Girl had fucking bloodshot eyes. She was pale as shit. She was like coughing and sneezing into her mask. She's wearing this thing. My mother asks her like, why is there such a long line today? And the girl tells her, she's like, oh, we had 6 of our pharmacists resign. And my mom's like, huh, let me guess, mandates? Mandates? And the girl's like, yeah, they just fucking walked off the job. So why is it? Why is it?
Where does your mom live?
That's super anecdotal, by the way.
Of course it's anecdotal. What I'm saying is,
like, what does your mom live like in an urban or a rural area?
no, this is just southwestern United States, I'll say.
Okay, but it's like an adjustment pain. So fuck the people who didn't want to get vaccinated and work as in a place exposed to a pharmacy is a place exposed to sick people. They should be vaccinated for that role.
Yeah, unironically, if you're a
That's not
healthcare,
crazy.
if you're like a healthcare worker and you don't want to get vaccinated, it's like
suck a dick. You're
Isn't that kind of living in some sort of a technocracy though?
no.
Or a science or
society.
It's Orwellian.
Yeah.
Society.
Wait, hold on. I don't want to make like a too far of a reach, but like this is the same thing like during segregation when like white ran businesses were forced to like have like black people come in there. They're just like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm gonna shut my business down. It's like it's exactly what he said. It's like it's pains of like changing times. That's all it is. like just because the U.S. isn't used to doing it doesn't mean it's like a bad thing that we should like. Why shouldn't you wear masks? Like, there's not a big deal with it, right? And even if you have like, unless you have like a severe like respiratory issue, like you can probably just wear masks.
He's
Yeah.
talking about he switched to vaccine mandates, but yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, well, I mean, because he's kind of jumping all over the place, right? It's kind of hard to keep on track, but like, it is true. Like, all these things change all the time. Like, the U.S. is the only country that has these like massive sorts of pushbacks because everyone is like, "Oh man, be woke! Like, the government's bad for you, blah blah whatever." And I understand that like we're inherently like very like skeptical of government and stuff like that. But like, the U.S. is the only country that has like problems like this. No one else gives a fuck. It's just us.
There are other countries with problems.
Yeah, that's definitely not true. I feel like there's lots of people in other countries.
Hold on. Let me finish my statement, please. The scale of the problems is not the same as the U.S. though, because generally speaking, those problems are either have been being dealt with for a longer time, or just like steamrolled over.
Yeah, fair enough. My bad.
Because the government
Yeah,
has
clarify
strength.
there.
It's just the U.S. is just fucking weird, but there are other countries with problems too. Also, China lies about everything, so who fucking knows what's going on there?
I also think a lot of the reason, like, I don't know about like the numbers in total, and this is like anecdotal from just like I studied history when I was in university, and I know for at least like Africa in particular, especially like once you get below like the Sahara, the difference between like city and rural becomes like really, really big. Like the city can probably get the vaccine out like in a week or so, but to get it out to the rural, it's kind of like you have to go through like jungle, or you have to take river, or all that other kind of
The
stuff.
best distribution network within continental Africa is Coca-Cola. So there's a guy who did a product design intervention where he built simple medical containers that fit in between the Coke bottles, because again, Coca-Cola has the most like sophisticated distribution network throughout continental Africa, and then it was just the fact that the packages that the medical supplies went into just fit perfectly in between the 4 or 6 bottles. You could fit like 2 and 6, and like do you know what I mean? Like the bottle has that kind of like air gap, and the medical supply package fit right in there, and that was like the easiest way to distribute things like epinephrine and stuff like that throughout the entire continent.
Have any of you guys ever suffered any adverse reaction, whether it be to a mask or a vaccine or a test or anything?
No.
I had like a minor fever, but it was nothing. I actually had COVID like pretty early on in the pandemic. Like, I think it was like June, and that was far worse than any like fucking vaccine. Like,
Also, wait,
I was
like,
I was like in bed for like a fucking week and a half. Sorry, a little bit of a stutter there.
obviously, if you're gonna have some kind of like allergic reaction to the vaccine or something, or if you have like a history of like having allergic reaction to vaccines, like, yeah, I am not in favor of making you get it. That could be life-threatening.
Yeah, but that's not like the average person, right? Like we're
It's
talking about
not,
general
right?
populations. Yeah, so it's just picking up like one particular, like kind of with like the whole like pharmaceutical thing you said, which obviously we all admit that was an anecdote, but like that's kind of like what you're picking up. I don't know. Dude, the vaccine thing is it's honestly so insane. Because if you remember even in the beginning, they were talking, sorry, real quick. Like, remember when everyone's like freaking the fuck out because they're just trying to force us to wear masks so we get like less oxygen flow to our brains so we go like retarded or sorry. Yeah, it's just like, dude, everyone in like Asian countries already uses, everywhere in Asian countries, like they always wear masks all the time. Like, are you just going to say that Japanese people aren't smart anymore or something like that? Like, that's really, it's just dumb.
Yeah, Japanese people are brain dead, unironically.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
true.
that would be
but not because of that.
Slightly
I mean, I'm even all right saying like if you've ever had any like major adverse reaction to a vaccine or wearing a mask, like I'm cool with exemptions, whatever.
And that's why I want to get vaccinated. It's not because I'm particularly worried about dying. I mean, there's other reasons I want to get vaccinated, but it's because I don't want to get people sick who can't take the vaccine.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Like,
it's about
our
herd immunity,
responsibility is helping
obviously.
people to take the vaccine so that we don't.
I will say this: it's not at all your guys' responsibility to take care of my health.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is. That's how like a public society works.
No, it's not. You
I guess
guys.
I can just go like drunk drive then, right? Like that's
No, you guys, you're making a really fallacious type of argument. No, you have no responsibility for my health.
Wait, then why can't I drunk drive?
Why can't you kill other people?
I'm pretty sure that killing other people has been covered for centuries, and I'm pretty sure that drunk driving is something that is called a DUI.
No. I'm asking you, like, why, like, what's like the ethical or like logical reason behind like making it illegal to drunk drive? Because if you think I have no responsibility for like the health or well-being of others, like then I think it should be made legal.
Maybe we should define health or well-being.
Okay, if I drunk drive,
Fatal illness is how.
yeah, does it have to be an illness? Because if I drunk drive, I like significantly raise the chances. of,
Isn't
like, me
isn't
just
every
killing
illness doesn't every illness have a certain level of fatality attached to it?
Yeah. That's why people get.
So should we live completely sterile lives? Should we stay 64 feet apart from each other?
Is that it's like,
Well,
whatever-
should we not wash our hands? I mean, what's the point of this? You're
Yeah,
basically
why don't you
saying
just-
why
why
take
don't you
any action to reduce like just
Like harm.
shittiness in your life?
Do you like spitting on
Who
handrails?
who
and,
should
like, rubbing
who
your
should
shit
be
on
the
walls?
ultimate
Like,
authority for the proper course of action, and what action should not be allowed?
As far as like health goes, like
Sure,
healthcare?
let's in order to narrow the focus, let's just say health, yeah.
CDC and WHO, I think that's normally how we like look at that stuff, right?
I think we should defer to the same kinds of groups we would to for like cars and shit. People who like if you really look at it, like the way like our medical system works modern day, it's like we actually have doctors in charge instead of like priests that have like some agendas and shit. Yeah, don't get me wrong,
Can
there's always gonna
doctors be
like, some
influenced by
doctors-
money? Can doctors change the results or influence the results of a study
Yeah, that's why
if
you
they're
have
financially
both, right?
influenced?
If you would have let me finish, I was gonna say the way our health system works is far different than a lot of those other things, is because we have doctors that are actually like double, triple checking other doctors.
Yeah, I believe they're called like
And
peer
we have
review.
organizations
You
that
can-
like
you can also
exist
appeal to,
based
like,
on their own
human
reputations.
doctors. This is an international world with other countries in America where people aren't like in such a hyper-capitalist system. You can appeal to Cuban doctors who don't actually have that much monetary incentive to want the vaccine.
Yeah, it
there
kind of
are
sounds
other
like
people to talk to.
it kind of sounds like you're just making like an anti-capitalist stance. Like, oh, if he could be influenced by money, you know?
That's actually really funny that you would say that. That's actually really funny. No, I'm asking questions.
Okay, well, how does
Classic.
that? Do you have any thoughts on what we just said then, other than that it's funny?
On what we just said, I mean, we said a lot of things. Can you give me a specific?
Okay, the fact that you're making an anti-capitalist remark by saying that it's like doctors will lie because of money, because money.
It's ironic that you would say I'm anti-capitalist.
I know. That's.
I don't
why
think
said
you're
it.
anti-capitalist. I just think you're not really thinking this point through.
No, I'm simply asking the question. You know,
This
if
is why YouTube check. It's a lot of shit. I hope you know that.
yeah, probably, but no, it's just the question of because you mentioned priests with an agenda, so I made the correlation. Can't a doctor have an agenda? Can't somebody funding the doctor have an agenda?
Yes.
Yeah,
There's
but
a
the
massive
issue-
difference between both, right? Because when you have like, if you have like a religious group that's like trying to control things, that's like them all together, right? Whereas when you have like a global like effort to change things, it's not just like that one group of doctors that's doing it, right? It's everyone else in the world. Like you're basically like saying that like this grand conspiracy exists, so that's why we can't believe in it.
Well, that's
Also,
called
religion-
that fundamental idea is called globalism.
Okay, religion also inherently like defers to a literal book that was written ages ago and hasn't changed. Whereas medical science is a practice of science where they frequently prove each other wrong and are pushing forward like what is right and wrong and like correct.
Right, hot take. Religion was like the first globalist society, bro. We literally spread around the world and colonized for two reasons: money and
In virtue of
religion.
God. In
Okay.
virtue of God.
Yeah.
And to get some, like diverse pussy, you know?
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Now that we can all agree on.
Hey, I'm a diversity man. Don't I'm not colonizing.
Hey, I'll take diverse. I'll take diverse pussy anytime.
Well, get vaccinated, and that way they'll be more comfortable with you doing that.
No, I don't need to.
Honestly, I think like this, like, and someone made like an error way long ago, but it's too hard to catch up to it now. But like the whole booster shot thing, like and taking the vaccines, if you kind of think of COVID as like as a stronger like seasonal flu, like that's how already vaccines already work. Is like you take these booster shots all the time. If you're like a younger adult and you like don't really need it, then you're probably fine with it. But the group that's like at risk, then you probably should just be taking it all the time. Like it is what it is, right? Because most old people take a seasonal flu shot. I never take that.
So don't you worry about all the people that you could be getting infected by not taking the flu shot?
Yeah, you really should though. Like you really should be worried about that.
Yeah, I
Should
agree.
I be taking the flu shot? I guess I never really thought about it, to be fair, but.
Exactly.
Well, it's because
No, that's a
seasonal
fantastic
flu
point.
doesn't
Why
really,
would
like-
you never think about it 2019 and back for your entire life, but all of a sudden in 2020, everybody almost as if it's the
Because it's like
religion
a
of
global
public
pandemic.
health,
Yeah, it's
start
either
worrying
the
about it.
Rates of transmission are super different, and it's not the same fucking disease. It's
So should we segregate
Parallel.
diseases based on rates of transmission? Should we look at herpes? Should we look at HIV? Should we look at gonorrhea? Should we look at syphilis? Should we look at all of these and effectively decide a
you're
public
actually
health
making a
policy
real
based on all of
dumbfuck
these?
argument, because we already do that.
So don't we already do that?
What public health
It's
policy
like,
is in place for those?
How big of a brain do you have right
What-
now? It's like,
what-
what
what-
if we just look at diseases and say, look, these are different?
What
like,
public health
I can't
policy is in
sneeze
place
at
for
you
those?
and give you herpes, bro. What are you trying to tell me right now?
No, but people that have it shed 15 to 20% of the year asymptomatically. They don't even know that they're doing it, but they're effectively shedding off parts of the virus.
Which one?
With herpes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but are people catching it based off of people with herpes walking around?
Hey, it's
Also,
estimated
to be
that
fair-
30 to 50% of the population have some form of it.
Bro, that's okay.
Well,
Herpes
yeah.
has very little
Isn't
negative
cold
effects,
sores
but
a
people
type
don't
of
really
like
care.
herpes?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's not true.
cold sores are the
You-
super
it puts you
common
at high risk of cervical cancer if you're a woman.
Not herpes simplex A, which is what he's talking about.
Wow.
Yeah,
Herpes
when
simplex
people-
A doesn't, and herpes simplex A makes up like most of the herpes cases.
That's what I'm trying to say, which
Yeah.
is not going to cause cervical cancer. It's literally just cold sores.
Yeah, because when people say herpes, we all know what we think of. No one thinks of cold sores.
People who get cold sores do.
Well, I mean, maybe those guys, I guess. I don't know. But if you said, like, oh, I have herpes, I'd be like, oh, not you mean
Yeah.
cold sores? I'd be like, oh, you have herpes. Like, I'm not going to have sex with you.
But that's like a linguistic kind of like cultural accepting, not like an actual.
Yeah, it's
It
kind of
doesn't have-
like if I call you like a criminal, everyone thinks of like you're a murderer and not like someone who like jaywalks or something like that, right? Or like someone who gets like speeding tickets, I guess. Yeah.
So what confuses me on the everybody that should get vaccinated argument is shouldn't somebody have the freedom to decide on some other method that could prove equally or more effective?
Yeah, but do you want people to be having?
No, because you can't choose that for other people. You can't choose that for other people.
No, I'm saying the individual choice. I'm not choosing anything for other people.
Okay, wait. Let's
No,
say
you
like
are. You are inherently. You are choosing this for other people. By choosing not to get vaccinated, you are choosing for other people. That's the problem. Nobody would give a fuck if it didn't affect other people.
Yeah. Another thing too is like, let's say there were two like perfectly like effective options. Like one's a vaccine and another one is, I don't know, like an implant or some shit like that that stops the spread exactly. Like, yeah, I think we should mandate one or the other, right? Like you should have to get one of the two. Depending. I mean, obviously if you're at risk. Of
I mean,
some
it's
kind of
a little
health thing,
ironic
but-
to mandate a vaccine where the data and the studies aren't even conclusive.
Dude.
Clinical trials aren't
Conclusive about
conclusive.
What are you trying to say they're not conclusive about?
Conclusive as in if I go to clinicaltrials.gov, I can look up the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine where the clinical trial is not expected to be completed until 2023, and already they're recommending boosters because the efficacy has dropped by
Oh my god.
at least
all
40%.
vaccines, the efficacy drops.
Right, it's almost like they developed a vaccine in record time, and there was a new variant by the time it was
Also,
out.
yeah, that's
Bro,
for Delta
you don't
variant.
just take one ibuprofen and it just works for the rest of your life, bro. It's got like a life cycle within your system. It's like, okay, it'll stay active and effective this long. Like every medication has this. Shit, fish oil has this. You take like 2 or 3, like, what is it, like a
That's the
day?
thing that-
Yeah.
That's the thing
Yeah.
that baffles me most is when people like try to argue against the vaccine and they're like, you realize it's like becoming less like efficient and like there is a drop off and it's like, Okay.
Bro,
Yeah, all
I
vaccines are like
fucking
that.
hate food. I have to eat twice a day because the efficacy of my double cheeseburger wore off.
Yeah, what the
day,
fuck?
bro.
I had a double burger. That's supposed to last forever, right?
Yeah,
Well, hey, you guys are
it's
mentioning
double
burgers, you know?
burger, bro.
You guys,
Eat everything.
Why are
right
they
on
making me
Wednesday.
eat 2 patties if it's not gonna?
hey, if you guys are really that worried about COVID, you shouldn't be eating cheeseburgers because
I'm
the
not worried
bun,
about COVID.
the
I'm worried
bun,
about spreading it.
because the bun is basically all carbs, and viruses like to work on, carbs, inflammation. Carbs cause inflammation. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm real fucking skinny, so I should just go get COVID.
Well, he has the vaccine, so I think he'll be okay. I think that's how that works.
How would he be okay? People that are
I'm just
vaccinated are
saying,
still
like,
contracting and
if you're
spreading
not
the virus.
vaccinated-
People that are vaccinated are still contracting and spreading.
Yeah, that's true, but at massively reduced rates. At massively reduced rates.
How is that? How is that an
Can you name
argument?
The
How
death
is that
rate
an
for
argument?
People that have the vaccine that get COVID. Can you name
It's
the
so
death rate for me?
it's so
Like,
funny that this is all the exact same shit people say about the flu vaccine.
Wait, hold up. I don't give a shit about the death rate. Just think about this, just personally, Vincent. Do you
What's that?
want to have children?
Do I want to?
Yes, to have that option in your life.
At some point in time, sure.
Okay, so you're much more likely to be infertile if you get infected with COVID without the vaccine.
Wait,
than if you
Hans.
get infected with COVID with the vaccine.
There, if you
Hans,
look at
did-
the vaccine adverse effect reporting database, there are a whole bunch of women that their pregnancies were effectively terminated within 1 week of getting the shot.
Wait,
Whoa, hang on. That source is hilariously misquoted. The reason. Hang on, I gotta remember the full reason. I can't remember if it's Destiny or someone else went into this. But the reason they were quote unquote terminated was because. Was because. God damn it, what was the reason? It wasn't
I mean,
like
that's
the-
I mean that's
it wasn't
data from the
because
Department of
baby
Health
had,
and
like,
Human
died.
Services.
It wasn't because the women had like died or the baby had died. It was
But
like
wait.
it was terminated because they gave birth. I think they just stopped tracking them. It was something stupid.
No, that's not the case.
Hang on, let me look this up real quick.
Was that from the VAERS database that you're referring to?
Yeah, that's from the VAERS database. It's an Excel spreadsheet you can download. It's publicly available online.
Yeah, I'm aware. It's also voluntary and hasn't been checked.
I don't know.
Well, it's actually it's not actually voluntary. It's actually required by federal law.
Wait, Hans, what do you mean? Don't you want to have kids? Didn't you hear about Nicki Minaj's cousin's friend?
Ooh,
Exploded, bro.
damn!
He
Let me
got
get at
infected.
that.
Yeah, that.
And then he got a divorce. How about that? You know.
From what I'm aware of, VAERS has been a database that the administration set up to have a place where people could report side effects, but it's been flooded with people just spreading crap like it makes 5G, it makes you metallic, and saying like.
Are you saying that off of any actual concrete evidence, or are you just saying that off some article that you read on CNN's website?
I mean, the way it works is that
No,
anybody
hold
can call
on.
in.
One wasn't CNN, but I love the partisan dig. Really shows a bit of motivated partisanship on your part.
Hey, it was the
But
first
what
it was the
I'm
first
saying-
news agency that came to mind. I was gonna say CNN. I was gonna say CNBC, but I couldn't think of it.
Well, what if it was Fox News? Would that suddenly make it more okay for you?
It wouldn't matter if it was
Well, then why would you
detrimental and
bring it
wrong.
up?
If it was wrong information, then I wouldn't care.
Common ground there.
So
No.
I don't watch any of those. I don't watch Fox. I don't watch CNN. I don't watch MSNBC. I don't watch any of that shit.
No, Fox is
So
president.
hold on. The
Sorry.
talking points presented are clearly from like a media source. Where are you listening to it? You are obviously getting from
TikTok.
some media source.
He's a boomer.
Well, okay, if you want to know where the media sources are, I mean, I have, it's like everyone has their channels on whether it's Telegram or Instagram or fucking Twitter or whatever. Everybody has the channels that they follow, but what I do is I take that headline and I dig into the source. I might look at the headline, I might look at the body of the text, but if they're going to say like, oh, according to a study, I don't care. I stop right there and I look at the study and I read the study.
True, and it just so happens that this time you dug into an unverified source.
Yeah.
Wait.
Oh, quick
Which
question.
source is
When
that?
you're analyzing a study, like what is like the methodology you would use to like mentally discredit a study? So, yeah, like.
Hey, that's a good question.
For
It's
me, it's
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it's the scientific method. So, you know, science requires observation, it requires testing, analysis, evaluation, studies, a placebo and a test group or whatever you want to call it. And it requires that over a period of time, and you have to conclude the study, you have to report your results, and then guess what? You get to observe more shit again. So if I was looking at a study on masks and it said masks were super effective, I'm going to look at the date, I'm going to look at the time, I'm going to look at the people involved in the study, I'm going to look at a study a year prior, 5 years prior, 10 years prior, 20 years prior, 50 years prior, and I'm going to put that all together. And if that one study said masks are effective, but the previous 50 years of studies says that they're not effective, naturally I'm going to err on the side of they're not effective. Now, again, other way around,
Go ahead, you're not done.
yeah, I was going to say other way around. If there was one study saying they're not effective and 50 studies over the past 50 years saying they are effective, then there you go.
Right.
So
Well, what if
do your own research meme, and if from what I'm gathering on what's been presented, if something like information is brought to you by, let's say, the news of any kind,
Like all the news that's brought to you by Pfizer.
like
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just by Pfizer? What?
No, it's a meme. It's a meme of
What is this, like PBS Kids? Like,
No,
brought
no,
to
it's-
you by
it's-
viewers like you. who
No,
work
it's
at the
just a meme. There's like a 2-minute video that somebody put together where it's like all of the major mainstream news brands had segments where they were all sponsored by Pfizer, and someone just put it together. It was kind of funny, but go ahead.
I think
Like,
all
publicly
the
traded company, they have the right to
sponsored by
advertise, right?
Pfizer, or were they just saying they were sponsored by Pfizer because they promoted Pfizer?
Oh my God, it was a
Just meme,
it was a
just
meme.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's just a
Which it
meme.
kind of is funny, right? If you like, as a joke, like Pfizer was sponsoring all the news networks, like that's objectively funny. I feel like that's kind of
Well, it's objectively funny, and it's like, of course they're going to promote, you know, vaccine and taking the vaccine when they're sponsored by the guys that fucking make it. Of course, they're not going to criticize it or question it.
Okay, but you have to admit there are other news sources that are promoting the vaccine that aren't sponsored by Pfizer.
Yeah, what about
Sure.
like the Chinese government? You know, like
You
I
don't
don't
have
think
to
they're
be
sponsored
yeah,
by Pfizer.
Like you don't have to be sponsored by Pfizer to be promoting Pfizer if you know it's one of the most demanded products in the world right now.
Also, Pfizer make more the drugs than just like the vaccines. So, like, I mean, like the pharmaceutical industry isn't exactly like a pauper's game. Like, they're not, you know, they don't need to con you into taking a vaccine that's basically free. It's not no benefit there.
Well, I mean, it's not free. Our tax dollars funded all of the fucking science and research, and then our tax dollars are also funding all of the distribution
True.
and transportation. So
Nice.
we are paying through the fucking nose for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it's also viewed as a public good. We pay through the nose for like public water access.
Yeah, wait. if
And
you're
and our
concerned about your
public water
taxes going
sucks
towards-
ass. Our public tap
concerned-
water is fucking garbage.
Well, yeah, that's because it's very expensive to do it, and
because
there
then that's when
oftentimes
the
comes to a
military
lot
and
of
our
communities.
Wait,
There's
if you're
often a
so-
lot of communities that are like citing against it for some reason.
If you're so concerned about your tax dollars going towards this vaccine, why don't you just go fucking get your money's worth, you know?
True.
Get 10 doses of that bitch, you know?
But- because
I want all of them at once. Yeah.
because
The more I get, the more of a steal it is.
You know what they say,
unfortunately, I don't get to see where my tax dollars go because I would consolidate the size of government significantly in order to save us all 5 to 10%.
Wait, you would do that? You can do that?
No, I said unfortunately I
5%
can't
or
decide
more
where my
of
tax
that.
dollars go.
True. Yeah, if I could just change like taxes, I would just make no taxes.
I know like the tax system's complicated, but we all have to consider the scope in which it covers. The United States is a very large nation. There's a considerable amount of projects in it. There's of course there's going to be a massive list of expenditures given the massive territory that it covers and maintains. And
Well, at the end of the day, the only ways that politicians have money from our tax dollars is by taxing us more. So if they want to do more things, whether or not we agree with them, they need more money. We already get 30% of our incomes taken off the top.
government,
You know, if you make more of certain income levels, you're getting nickel and dimed an extra 2%, 4%, plus your sales tax, plus your property tax, plus your insurance tax, plus your gas tax. You know, when it comes to the subject of,
Theft, is that what?
well, when it comes to the subject of tax, what I always ask people is, at what point will you say this is too much? 30%, 60%, 90%?
In the name of public health.
We're talking about an unending process through the duration of the existence of a government. They will always need money. A government needs money to function.
So shouldn't we consolidate the size of government so we can have more money in our pocket rather than give it to them for whatever fucking spending they deem necessary?
If you care more for yourself than the United States or its people, then sure.
Also, there are things that you can't achieve on a local level that you can on a national level. Like, you could never have the U.S. military, which I'm personally not super for, but like you could never have that size of military if you have each state having limited government.
Hospitals
or like researching things like fusion or the internet,
or vaccines.
Vaccines.
Well, hey, the internet's been around since the 60s. It just didn't go public until the 1990s.
Right, because it's funded by the government. That's
DARPA.
DARPA net is a government program, so you can thank your fucking Telegram service and your systems or from the fucking national government.
It's like, people didn't set that up because people didn't have the capacity to do it. It's extremely expensive. It's extremely expensive and difficult to lay wire in the ocean on a Sicilian level.
It's also not profitable initially. There's like this. It's like a completely insane thing to do.
Yeah. Plus, you gotta get satellite relays to cover proper the entire world.
Why don't we just? Why didn't everyone just turn on the hotspots on their phones? Back in the 60s.
So is everybody here jabinated? Did everyone get the jab?
Yes. I got the jab.
I got the jab.
I got mine relatively recently. It took a long time to get it here.
I got mine early.
To be fair, I don't have the vaccine, but it's not because I'm anti-vax. It's just the area I live in. It's just the vaccine's not a big deal, so it doesn't really get pushed on you. So I'm kind of just by the time comes, it comes. Like if tomorrow they were like, hey, by the way, everyone in your city is doing vaccines tomorrow, I'd be like, okay, I'll go. But
you should go. You should go.
Honestly, I had the choice. I do government contracts for remodeling courthouses and libraries and museums and stuff like that. And one of the courthouses I was at actually had the van outside giving out COVID vaccines. And I should have just gotten in for it, but I was just like, eh.
I just felt a lot better once I got it. I got COVID when it was first spreading, and I've had tinnitus ever since in my left ear. I don't know if it's related, but that.
Oh, it's actually totally related. I actually saw a. I can actually send you a link of it. There was actually something that was in mainstream news of over 10,000 people reporting tinnitus after getting the shot. So you're not alone in that.
Getting COVID.
Oh, after getting COVID. Oh,
I think it's kind of like one of those symptoms that is not mutually exclusive to either. Because I know having had the vaccine and having had COVID, tinnitus existed in both, and man, it fucking sucked.
Everybody knows that there's even a list on the website of possible side effects of the vaccine, but by and large, it's pretty what's that term I'm looking for?
Niche.
Or it's considerably small compared to the
marginal.
So.
Plus.
I mean, shouldn't people have the individual liberty to make that decision of I don't want to suffer those potential reactions, therefore I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yes, but not if you're gonna go exist in public.
No, he just gets the talking points.
So what if?
That's the thing, right? If you're gonna stay home and not go outside, you do you, man.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna go out and be a member of society, there's kind of things you need to do and be responsible.
So that's another slice of liberty that I got to give up to participate in society.
What do you mean? You give up liberties all the time by just obeying laws when you go outside. What do you mean? Stop being like that. I gotta give up my freedoms. What do you mean?
Yeah, it really sucks to not be.
So where do you draw the line? If your government comes out and says there's too many fucking people on the planet, we need to sterilize you to not reproduce. Are you guys gonna hop on that? That's not different whatsoever. It's a principle. It's a question on principle. It's a question on principle. Where do you draw the line? Is that somewhere where you would go, you know what, I'm not gonna do this?
Well, I draw the line after public health.
Well,
what does that mean?
So I think there's a difference between public health and public health related to like a virus, because if we're talking about public health, we should just get rid of all fast food altogether.
Look,
If we're talking about public health related to like
If we're talking about public health, we should get rid of high fructose corn syrup. We should get rid of gluten. We should get rid of MSG. We should get rid of soybean oil, which are all things that are FDA approved, by the way. Also, the RBST growth hormone in cows. That's another one.
Yeah, it's just the thing is, if you're gonna get the slippery slope fallacy crap, then you got to be able to recognize. So we have laws governing and preventing other laws. If somebody makes like a sterilization law and it's justifiable, say like that's a bad thing, people can argue it in the courts, and they would that would be like enforcing a line. Ergo, we have the very thing, the abortion bill, currently going to the Supreme Court and dying. Like, it's being murdered in the courts right now. They're really not on the side of this bill. And but when it comes to the
well, we also have informed consent laws and experimental medical products laws that completely went out the fucking window.
Yeah, no, these are parts of the line that we currently have. And
wait, what do you mean?
You're giving like the fallacy of the slippery slope, and where do we draw the line? I'm telling you, and even with the whole like consent thing, these are like the line, and how they're implemented and enforced are the line. I know the nuances are a little bit complicated because I myself am not a legal expert, and I know you're not. And I think we have a few legal experts in the server.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer and a doctor and a.
I'm a
certified doctor. I have a PhD in anime titties.
Wait, which one's the lawyer?
Sure.
That's very useful.
I have a PhD in lawyerism and a PhD in having a big dick. You know, I'm not actually. I'm not actually Vincent. I'm not actually a lawyer.
Gotcha.
What are you then? What are you then?
Anyways, somebody asked about the experimental part.
The validity of the talking points about the slippery slope and the whole like trying to sterilize people is a bit of an alarmism that I think is mostly just being circulated for the sake of making people not take the vaccine.
No, it's not alarmism. It's asking the question on principle. Where do you draw the line? Because if we're gonna argue,
you draw this line at the flu shot.
If we're going to argue that it's a slippery slope and things like this haven't happened before, like, look, I own guns. I've followed gun laws for over 20 years. I see over the past 20 years, little by little by little by little gets taken, and pretty soon you're going, holy fuck, what do I have to do to just get a firearm?
Would you say that the heartbeat bill is a slippery slope?
What's the heartbeat bill?
How?
Sorry,
It's a abortion ban thing.
Oh.
Would you say that's a slippery slope?
How is it a slippery slope?
Because it allows deputization of like citizens for the sake of collecting bounties on people that they perceive to have gotten an abortion, or serve as people in order to get an abortion. Where's the line, right? Where like now they're incentivizing people to take up weapons against their neighbors.
I would say that abortion is a very simple subject. Define life, and wherever you define life, you can't have an abortion until that point.
This is why I hate the abortion debate. I would love to squash this abortion debate after this.
My point being is to reinforce the already dead horse that's been beaten, displaying extreme partisanship. Given that he seems okay with the abortion bill, going to debate whether or not it's bad based on when a baby comes into it's like basically just depending on people's lack of qualifications in the field to justify doing this thing, while we have people who do not have qualifications in the field of biology debating whether or not this vaccine should be like pushed or whatnot.
I mean, can I use that same logic and say that if somebody doesn't own guns, they can't participate in the gun debate?
That's not what he's saying. That's what he's saying that like there's people in these like fields that actually know stuff, and people who are outside of the fields like always seem to have the right answer for it. So it's not that you can't engage on the topic, but you probably shouldn't have such a strong presence in it if you're not a specialist in that field, right?
I have a PhD in gun.
I don't know, just at some point it just makes me feel like maybe this is just me where I live, because I live in the Midwest and people are kind of, you know, yikes about stuff, but like it just feels like every time I like read something from the CDC or WHO, I'm like, okay, this is how things work, and then like Steve happens to know everything else, like that scientists just happen to miss. Like it seems like really odd.
Yeah, Mr. Drake, take care. Can you stop like crinkling plastic, please?
I mean, as a society, we shouldn't put anyone on a pedestal. You know, like scientists aren't better than engineers, aren't better than lawyers, aren't better than anyone else.
They're not better. It's that they work in the field. You know, it's like saying, "Hey, fucking mechanics are pussies, bro. They work at cars all day, man."
Well, Go ahead, sorry.
The reason we put these people on a pedestal, and I get the language because I've heard this language from like MTG a couple of times. The reason we put these people on the pedestal regarding COVID is because they're specialists in biology, and because people in the party and in politics decided to put them like in charge of these things.
Do the professionals and doctors and experts with America's Frontline Doctors have any validity to their claims?
If they're specialists in virology or extremely educated within the field, then yes.
Well, they are extremely educated. They just get silenced on Twitter and YouTube because they don't march down the corporate line.
Are you saying that validating COVID and the vaccination is just because of the corporate line?
Say again?
Are you saying that them promoting the vaccine and discussing, you know, like pushing back against COVID disinformation is because of the corporate line?
Who's the one to decide what is and is not disinformation?
Question with a question. Here we go.
Can I hear an answer to that question, please?
The people we put on the quote pedestal that you were just talking was like a bad thing. The, you know, people we have in charge. I get like people don't like the CDC, but they have a large amount of scientists and a large amount of resources dedicated just to this. And I think that the main reason why people on the right are against the CDC now is because they were promoting the validity and existence of the COVID and the effectiveness of the virus, while they themselves were pushing against the validity of it and the existence of COVID. They just don't like the science pushing back against them.
Yeah, hang on. This like whole like, wait, why do we put like the CDC and these doctors on a pedestal? It's like, it's not that they're infallible, right? But it's like saying this, it's like these are the people who are like developing the vaccine, studying the vaccine, working closely with it. It's like if you buy like a fucking refrigerator and you're like, oh, I want to know how to like fucking change the temperature on this refrigerator. But like, I could read the user manual, but like, why am I going to put the company that made the refrigerator on a fucking pedestal? I'm just going to go fucking.
Why would I trust a company as to how to use it exactly?
How to use their product, right? And it's like, look, like the manual could be wrong, right? There's always what ifs. Like, yeah, there could be a global conspiracy. These vaccines could be fucking like X-Files, fucking alien implant shits, right? It
God,
could
I hope
happen.
so.
But if you're just looking for like a best source for this kind of information, where like these people are checking each other, generally there is like science in work here, where like there are studies about this shit. Like, it's the best source of information to go to with like the CDC.
Well, see, that's what confuses me is that like I already established is that the studies on these shots are not conclusive.
Okay,
there's nothing conclusive about it.
Conclusive, right? But it is conclusive that they are like somewhat effective. That is conclusive.
Well, of course, me masturbating is somewhat effective, but it doesn't deliver what I'm looking for, which is sexual satisfaction from a female. Like, what is the...
Wait, isn't that kind of like the science is sometimes wrong, though, like, argument? Because, like, obviously scientists are wrong sometimes, but we don't just be like, well, this sometimes wrong, so I'm never going to believe in science.
Hold on.
I think.
Well, because I don't treat science as a religion. I don't believe in science.
I don't think he believes in any of this. I think he's just towing.
He's just asking questions. You know?
I think he's just towing. Fucking hell, what was I gonna say again?
Of course, scientists are wrong. Scientists are right. Scientists are inconclusive. That's the process of science that we already talked about.
You were saying that the vaccine doesn't do what you want. You want to be able to be satisfied by a woman. One, the vaccine has not been proven to make you inept. And two, the vaccine is not to make you hard. That's what Viagra is for. It is to protect you from a virus. Get the vaccine because you are trying to get protection against a virus. Therefore, you are getting what you want out of it, protection from something that is potentially life-threatening. It is not like to make you suddenly the most active
Giga
man.
Chad.
If somebody's naturally immune, should that be considered equivalent?
No.
No.
Why?
Could you explain what you mean by naturally immune? Do you mean like they contracted the virus and have that immunity via having the virus? Or?
That's what natural immunity has been defined as for the past 100 years. Yeah.
The details of natural immunity there was a thing released recently. I think
All right, if you're gonna say a thing released recently, you're gonna have to find exactly what that fucking thing is.
I already showed you this, and this is like the whole point of I remember this conversation, and I posted like the CDC specs and the ourhealth.org thing. It's like a world reporting database where they were essentially showing that the natural immunity is extremely inconsistent, ranging from like 3 months to a couple of years. It's you would want the vaccination because it's much more consistent and much more proactive.
Wait.
Based on what?
Another question? Why wouldn't you want both?
Well, yeah, there's that too. I mean,
Well, okay. First off, he said it's more consistent, more effective based on what? The 11 months of data that we have. All we have is 11 months of data. The shot started getting released in December of 2020. You're going to tell me that 11 months of data is worth justifying 3 and maybe even 4 shots?
Well, we have 11 months of data from throughout the world, so like...
Yeah.
We have 11 months of data throughout the world on vitamin D.
Just 11 studies for
essentially you just saying that nothing is enough, because 11 months of the entire world's population worth in data collection is absurd to me. Like, you just...
It's the most ever given vaccine ever.
Ever.
Inoculation ever.
Just really quick, like,
History of the world.
kind of like a rhetorical question. And I don't know if it's like virology is the field I should be talking about, but like I don't know shit about fuck when it comes to that sort of stuff. So is it short or is it really long? Like I actually don't know the specifics.
Depends on the sample size.
Right, but the point I'm trying to make is like, do you, like Vincent, do you actually know if like 11 months is too long or too short? Because I'm not a specialist in that field, so I feel like I couldn't even make that judgment call to be like, well, this hasn't been long enough. Like, how do we know the vaccine's effective? Which is like an arguing point I hear all the time here in the Midwest.
Circling back like Jen Psaki to what I said, the clinical trials themselves aren't conclusive with any of these vaccines. And what I would say is that for all of the methods that are effective, for example, vitamin D, 60 to 90% reduction in contracting colds and flus, 90% reduction in having a moderate to severe cold or flu, a 95% reduction in your chance of dying from a cold or flu if you have sufficient vitamin D levels. That has clinical data over the past 70 years. There was a study back in 2010 that demonstrated that at least 1 out of 8 people globally, meaning that out of 7 billion people, over 1 billion people around the globe are deficient in vitamin D. So when we talk about data, when we talk about evidence, when there's 70 years of clinical data for something that is 60 to 90% effective against colds, flus, viruses, bacteria, I think it's a lot stronger of an argument than saying, oh, here's this shot where all the clinical trials haven't concluded, haven't finished, yet let's just give it to the global population.
So then why do you think that like it's not being recommended to just get more vitamin D against COVID?
That's a great question.
I'm asking you that question.
Yeah, I wish I had the answer.
Because if you're believing studies from over the like 70 years, it's like, see, we have 70 years of evidence for this. We have like 70 years of like people still peddling like eugenics and shit. Like,
wait, I need to.
Wait, what the fuck argument is that?
He is suggesting a like wider conspiracy going on here.
So I need to ask Vincent a question because we're talking about like, oh, is like natural immunity more or less like effective than like the vaccine? It doesn't matter, right? Let's say natural immunity is more effective than having the vaccine. I don't know that to be the case, but let's just say hypothetically it is. Like, Are you pro like the government like giving mandatory tests so that they know if you have that natural immunity or not? What if like what if you think you've had it, but like you can't prove to the government that you have natural immunity? Are you like for getting the vaccine?
I don't have to prove anything to the government as far as
So you're
I'm
just
concerned.
like for lawlessness. So like
No,
what you say about
no,
natural immunity
no,
doesn't
no,
matter.
no,
You just
no,
don't want the
no,
government to be involved in the spread
no,
of this like virus at all.
No. Absolutely not at all what I said.
Would you agree with that?
I couldn't even hear half of what he said because I was saying no over and over.
All right, let's have him repeat himself and see if you agree with that.
I repeat it. Yeah, go. I'm
Yeah,
ready.
Go
this
ahead.
is my point,
ready.
right? It sounds like your point is that you just don't want the government like mandating our immunity, right? This was my point. Like the government, like if they could prove that you have this natural immunity, and let's say it is as effective as the vaccine, I would be fine with like mandating. Maybe you don't have to get the vaccine if you have natural immunity.
See,
But
what
if you, like,
all that
don't
I'm
have
hearing
natural
right now
immunity-
is you asking me to bend over and say, "Govern me harder, Daddy."
So this is what I'm saying, right?
That is
Like,
what he's saying. Yeah.
your whole point is like, oh, I just don't want the government to be involved in like controlling immunity. That's just what you're saying.
Basically, an
Well,
evolution of
But
the
then it
same
doesn't get.
sort of
But then
stance.
natural immunity doesn't matter. We're just back to like our mandates, okay or not?
What should the government be involved in? What shouldn't they be involved in?
I think they need to be involved in like. I think they need to be involved in controlling like the spread of the virus. Obviously,
Immunity
because
of others'
people clearly don't know how to fucking do it on their own.
I know how to do it on my own. I knew what to do ever since
You didn't get the
2019.
vaccine.
I honestly don't think you know.
No, he's been getting
that's
lots of
when a
vitamin
lot
D,
of the
though.
terminology and references has been based on.
This is the point,
a
right?
lot of the talking points.
Obviously, if you're only worried about yourself, you might not want to get the vaccine. The point is that like a majority of people have to get it.
So wait, Lunar, let me ask you. I just gave evidence of vitamin D being critical in reducing your ability of contracting a cold or flu 60 to 90%, depends on the person, of course. And you're going to tell me that that's not me taking effective measures for somebody else or some people in society or the community writ large. If I have a 90
everything you can within reason.
For-
So I think you should
within
do that
reason,
and
okay,
take it
what
out.
reason?
For the-
Define
for the
reason.
For the record, you haven't shown that to be in fact. You just gave us the theory of the vitamin D thing.
Fuck it, I'll take everything he says as a given, right? You know what?
What about the people who were already on multivitamins before the virus?
Multivitamins are generally trash. They generally do not contain significant levels of any of the vitamins to make a difference.
Wait,
Okay,
hold on.
what
To
about
be-
people who
wait,
get
wait,
enough
wait, real
sun?
quick. To be fair, when you said that study, and I'm not saying you made it up because I'm kind of familiar with what you said. That's for the seasonal flu. I don't know if that's ever been proven to like show to be effective against COVID-19. So like that's.
You can go to
yeah, like,
clinicaltrials.gov. You could type in vitamin D, and you can look at all the recent studies for COVID.
For COVID, okay.
Yeah. Clinicaltrials.gov, also nationalinstituteofhealth.gov. Just go to their search functions, and you can type it in. There are thousands, not hundreds. There are thousands of studies looking at vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D, quercetin, turmeric, ginger, echinacea, elderberry, all sorts of more natural prophylactic or early treatment methodologies. There's also a website you can go to that has a lot of this information in an easily digestible package, vdmeta.com. It basically gives you all the data right there. Venerealdiseasemeta.com. No, vitamindmeta.com. On the right side sidebar, there's also vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, remdesivir, probiotics.
I get the point,
Yeah.
But, like,
Basically,
if-
there's all of this information in a very readily, easily accessible, consolidated package with every single source to every single number linked. You can go read all of the studies. And it makes it easier for you rather than going to clinical trials or NIH.gov and just simply typing shit in and scrolling and praying that you find something that confirms your biases. But
So
there you
wait,
go.
what's easier for people? Taking a vitamin supplement every day or like taking like 2 or 3 shots that take like an hour and are free?
Are you free?
I mean, you're putting that in the leisure aspect. That's pretty general.
That's kind of hard to answer, right? Because like an hour to like some person might be like nothing, but an hour to like other people feel.
I definitely think there.
Well, and let me ask you, if you go and get 2 or 3 shots, and by your words, spending an hour doing each one of them, and you can still contract and spread COVID. What is the difference between me taking vitamins every day and still
Because you
having
reduce
the
risk.
potential?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like I weightlift all the time, right? So I take like specific amino acids for my ligaments and stuff like that. I think it's glutamine, L.
For wait, specific amino acids for your what?
For my like
No.
my
For-
ligament joint health. My ligament
You
joint
you
health.
want to lick at these nuts?
Ligament joint health, right? But my point is like it's not because it's 100% effective against like reducing inflammation and healing them. It's because I want to reduce the chances of me getting injured when I'm in the gym because I do more powerlifting than I do like calisthenics or anything like that, right? So like just because it's not 100% effective doesn't mean I'm not going to take it.
Sure.
Right? Like I know condoms can break, but I still wear them.
That wasn't the argument he was making.
Vitamin D isn't proven to give you an immunity against COVID.
I never said immunity.
You were implying that it helps you create an immunity by boosting.
I never said immunity.
Never said immunity, not once.
I was gonna say I don't think that's
Why
like.
bring up vitamin D if we're talking like protection?
Because it lowers your chance of death.
Because it lowers your chance of contracting the disease. It lowers.
Not immunity.
Again, it lowers your chance of contracting. It lowers your chance of moderate to severe illness. It lowers your chance of death.
Yeah, contraction would be like immunity type thing. It's like
Your vaccine isn't providing you. Your vaccine isn't providing you immunity if you can still contract and get and spread the virus.
But you can
People
still
who
do that
have
with
the
vitamin
vac-
D too.
Sure.
people who have the vaccine can still
That's
get
why they're
the-
bullet resistant vest, not bulletproof.
Just to clarify, his original point was that like he as an individual has done his like due diligence in like protecting himself in the public because he takes these supplements. That was like the argument.
Yeah. I think that's good, and I think that's awesome. I think it's great that you do that. But how is the government gonna moderate that?
It's not the government's business to moderate my health.
My
Okay,
big question.
well, I think they should.
It's not the government moderating your health. It's the government trying to like lower negative externality.
The government has failed for the past 18 months. Why would I trust their efforts to moderate
but they
the
did better than
coronavirus?
Aren't they like arguing for like a new government implementation? I don't know if anywhere in the U.S. is
What do you think?
it's like talking about like their past failures is irrelevant.
Yeah, it's like, what do you think that maybe part of the reason why they're failing and you're
That's an irrelevant point you're about to bring up right now.
is probably because they haven't done a mandate and they've been very restrained in getting these vaccinations out. Like, would they have done? They might have done better if they weren't so restrained by people being so against it.
All right, so how much longer would all of you like to live in lockdown, wear masks, get boosters every 6 months?
As little as possible, and that's why I think everyone should take the vaccine.
As much as necessary.
Big true.
As much as necessary. How
like I said,
much
when I say
more
everyone,
wealth
I
would you
know.
like to see consolidated away from the middle class, which is everybody in this chat, and given to the corporations? There was $400 billion consolidation of wealth given to the massive corporations, which I'd assume a lot of people in here don't want to support or are somewhat
I mean, if
against.
you're worried about
Hold on,
massive
hold on, hold on.
corporations, why are you worried so much about
This-
pharmaceuticals?
this-
Aren't they like?
Hold on. I was just gonna say, like, what about like basic doctor visits? Like, are you gonna not take your car to the mechanic because there's a major corporation behind the production of your vehicle or the parts within it? Like, are you gonna not get pay for your electricity bill because the ISP for it or the service providers for it make a lot of money off of it?
Wait, what would happen if 90? What would happen if
These are
like,
good points. Can you like respond to any of that?
Go on.
These are like good points the other guy was making.
Which guy? There was like 3 people talking at once.
Rage Rocket.
Rage Rocket. Yeah.
Can you restate some of the points?
Would you be willing to like not take your car to the mechanic just because a major corporation produced it or that in the parts within it, if it breaks down?
So you're suggesting bringing it, let's say, to someone else, local or shop, instead of that? As an other.
I don't know. We don't know if they're funded by major corporations or buying parts
Or if they have
from a
access
major
to
corporation.
parts.
Yeah, it's like the even a small local level shop is gonna get part from a major corporation because the major corporation can mass produce the parts.
Forgive me if I'm not understanding the correlation. The premise of what I was asking is how much longer do people want to go through masking, lockdowns, mandates, boosters every 6 months, and continue to see us getting fucked while corporations consolidate wealth, because us getting fucked was also having all middle class businesses shut down while all the major corporations were able to stay open. So we got fucked. All of us, every single person in this chat got fucked by government policy, and you're sitting here advocating for more government policy.
Are you against like a building being made using power tools because a major corporation produced those power tools?
I don't see the correlation here.
My correlation being
Go ahead.
that you're appealing that these people are like we shouldn't support these corporations because they're big, and we should like rebel because they're rich and we don't want them to get richer. That's an extremely myopic way of looking at it, and but I'm asking you.
No, what I would say is if I had a choice between a small privately owned middle class company to use tools or build a structure for me, I would much rather go to them than a major corporation, especially considering that over the past 18 months, a lot of middle class businesses shut down, with north of 80% of them that will never return because people invested their hard work, their life savings, and 20 to 30 years of their entire life getting this business up just so the government can come in and crush it while consolidating wealth for all of these corporations. And furthermore, also commit insider trading, selling stocks before announcing that we're going to do lockdowns, also buying stocks before announcing that the government is going to do things like buy Tesla cars and do all these energy bills. So I don't understand why we're still advocating for more and more and more and more and more government control when they continue fucking us royally.
Image like you've just painted is the saving of lives potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
and the production of vaccines, which is super.
They didn't just do this randomly.
Like they do it as a small middle class business.
And I'm also not sure how this are you like running away from the argument for the vaccine mandates? Like these guys are saying that they want a vaccine mandate to save lives, right?
And apparently against regulations.
That's like an overgeneralization.
I have a question for Vincent too.
Go on.
Let's like remove like mandates for a second here. Let's just say like government intervention with like government funding, that kind of thing. Obviously it comes from the tax dollars, but still the idea of government funding.
Yeah.
What if instead of like funding a vaccine, they'd fund it for like 50% of the country to like get like vitamin D supplements? Wouldn't that have also been like millions, if not billions of dollars like funneled to a big corporation?
I would say that would not cost even a fraction of a percentage of what the vaccines cost. That would be a significantly low cost.
Like a pretty major scientific breakthrough with vaccines.
I mean I would say that the vitamin D would be a very low cost, high reward type of benefit. There were schools in India that were giving away tablets of vitamin C, vitamin D, and fucking hydroxychloroquine, and it's interesting to see how the different governments have handled this. But some effectively took what you're suggesting, is they kind of gave these type of prophylactic or early treatment opportunities. Whereas I don't know if you're all in the United States, but what were we all told when you get COVID? Oh, there's no early treatment. All you got to do is stay at home and good luck. Wait it out.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that.
That's 100% false, inaccurate information, by the way.
Yes.
The point of
If anybody in this chat still believes that contracting COVID means that you have to stay at home and there's nothing you can do, I really want to share valuable information for you.
The nuance that you're omitting from that equation is that the reason why they wanted people to stay home and quote wait it out was because by doing so, reducing travel and traffic reduces the spread, and if you can reduce the spread, you can throttle the amount of hospitalizations.
Well, that doesn't follow proper virology.
I'm talking about like rate of spread of the virus and hospitalization.
Rate of contamination.
Yeah, and like that's like the whole point of like trying to say like this is wrong and shit implies that there's no point in doing this and they're just misleading the public, but there's a point to doing it, being the whole reducing or like making it so hospitals aren't like overwhelmed by people who need care.
I don't know, man.
I'd love to peer into the alternate universe where the government was like, hey, if you get COVID, run out to your local Walmart. Go grab stock your shelves,
I would have loved to hear any public health official say, hey, in order to boost your immune system, go to your local pharmacy and get X, Y, and Z.
So
I mean,
Rather than
This is like
I would much rather I would have been
but,
much
like, just by the
happier
way,
seeing
this was
vitamin C
said
and
to
vitamin D
people.
tablets sold out rather than toilet paper.
This was like an irrelevant point, right? But this is what
Nobody
was
said
said.
anything
Like
about
my
toilet
pantry, my mom like completely filled the pantry with vitamin D. I have like 50 tablets, 50 of the bottles here.
Damn.
So this
Also,
was
people-
said. But like this again, I don't know why we're talking about this. Are you guys wasn't the main argument on vaccine mandates and whether or not that was a good idea?
Yeah, but Vincent hasn't. I mean, he just thinks they're not a good idea.
Well,
He
the
doesn't.
other
I don't think there's any debate
subject
with him to be
was
had there.
the other
Vincent,
subject that the vaccine mandates deviated to was alternative methods of early treatment, prophylactic treatment, late treatment, or even prevention.
That you gift
Vincent,
out.
I
Sure,
was just
that can all exist, but like I don't understand like how. So the main argument for the vaccine, I'm sure that they've made it 1,000 times, is just like a lower chance of like spread, a lower chance of death, a lower chance of hospitalization. Like the numbers are showing, like you don't disagree with all. Like you're obviously like read up on the data. You don't disagree with all of this.
Yeah, and a lot
You're just
of
saying,
the
like, you
data
just think,
shows
like,
that there's no real reduction in the spread. People are still getting it. There's over 3,300 different genomic sequences of
didn't
COVID. The
Vincent-
Delta,
didn't
there's
Vincent
there's the
cases
del, there's the
drop
alpha
like
variant, the beta
45%
variant, the
this
delta
last
variant, the gamma variant. There's the fucking omega
Hey,
variant.
you're being psychotic right now, Vincent.
Wait,
you need
stop,
to
stop,
calm.
stop,
You're in the
stop,
middle of a
hold on.
psychosis attack.
I'm
You
giving
need
you
to
an,
stop,
I'm giving
just
you
listing
information.
things off and stick to one thing at a time, bro. Like, it's okay to say like, oh hey, I don't like vaccine mandates because of this, but what you're doing is I don't like mandates because of this.
I mean, it's fine if he has a
Just calm
bunch
the
of things
fuck
that may
down.
correlate to his same opinion.
Is
Well, yeah, but
is it
that's
is it
not
hard to
actually
keep
wanting
up
a
with one
conversation. That's
item
wanting
and
to,
10
like,
arguments?
Have your voice.
Yo, shut up!
No, I refuse.
God. But anyway,
Listen, it doesn't
I
matter
think
if
that's like
you
not
drag
true.
Hold on.
It's
What
not
is
they showed,
what
like,
is
some stuff where,
Progenitus
like,
saying?
if
Hold on.
every state had the there's like an analysis done where it's like if every state had like the vaccine rate of the highest U.S. state, it'd be like 10,000 less deaths over like a 4-month period, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that like people like the spread and hospitalization are the same is just not true. I'd like to see where you saw that. Like if it was true, like I probably wouldn't be for vaccine mandates as well, right?
Yeah, but the general consensus is that those things are true. Like that's why we think in one
Yeah.
particular way. It's kind of hard. Like I don't mean to paint you in a bad light or anything, man. But it's really hard to argue with people like you because it feels like every time you try to make an argument or come up with a study, people are just like, yeah, but the government, and it's just like, how the fuck am I supposed to argue with that? Because it just feels like you're gonna run into like fallacy or just like some sort of grand conspiracy ideas. And it's so impossible to get a hold of that reality because I don't live in that one, right?
I think it has a lot to do
Best thing
with
is
like
they don't assume those things. Just try to.
God damn! Like, can someone like ask him a question? One person, not even me.
I mean,
Let him answer, right?
if we're being real, how's he supposed to have a conversation with like 20 people at a time?
True.
I think it has more to do with like loyalty
Guys need
to
to fucking be able to input more information.
Hold on. Can I hear what Progenitus is saying? He's never had the opportunity to speak, and he's got a great picture. It's actually fucking
I'm just
hilarious.
listening to you guys, and just honestly, you need to be a little bit less overgeneralizing things. Be a little bit more concise in what you're getting, or what you're actually talking about. But there's nothing wrong with correlating a bunch of different things in your opinion. If you can't absorb the information he's saying, just fucking listen, slow down. It's fine. Go at it one at a time.
Yep.
Next, any takers?
I think that the whole like COVID thing is more of missing the trees from the forest type of thing, given that a majority of the talking points or responses have been pretty verbatim alarmist talking points I would hear from like MTG at one of her rallies, or Charlie Kirk, or like I'm surprised I haven't heard RNA brought up yet, or the WHO, but I'm pretty sure it would get there eventually. Or if we went down the whole like anti-corporative line, or can't trust the big government, then we'd eventually get to the WHO or the China's lying thing. I think we did get to that the last time, maybe. Anyways.
I don't know if you're here on like
I
Tuesday
think,
/ Wednesday night, but
the point that I'm getting to is that I think we're going about this in the wrong way, and as in the talking points and responses seem very like beating a dead horse of it's just politically driven reasoning, and in order to actually affect the reasoning equation to break through on this would be more to discuss why the loyalty to like the party or a faction that has given or created talking points that have evolved off of COVID denialism or vaccine denialism.
I don't think there's anybody here that is quote COVID denial or quote vaccine denial.
No, I'm talking like the talking points have evolved.
Yeah, the talking points are.
I never understand what's like. So there was a clear like disagreement on like the actual facts. Like there was an disagreement on the empirics, and instead you're here trying to shadow box. He hasn't even reached here yet. What's the point? He obviously disagreed on like the vaccine efficiency, right? Like efficacy. He thought like it wasn't true that like states or like places that are like more like have like more like a higher vaccine rate like saw like less spread, so, like less hospitalization, and we just like walked past that. And now you're trying to talk about like the Republican Party.
No, we did talk about that. I think it was like last time, and I brought up a thing that showed that.
I don't think you were here last time with me.
Oh, okay. So you like had this conversation with him before, and you just like didn't care.
Yeah, like I showed him the CDC document of like how many vaccinated versus unvaccinated people occupy the hospitals, and because he was saying that unvaccinated are like more, and then I showed him that it's not, and yeah, it's like when it comes like the whole focus on corporations getting a lot of money and hospitals getting a lot of money, these are essentially the standard word for word talking points.
No, what was his response though? Like after you showed him the data?
I think the conversation shifted.
So Shirkan, you came in here a little bit late. That's why I said that point later on, is that like whenever you try to like ask him a question or pin him down on something, it turns into this like grand conspiracy thing where he just like derails the conversation by going into like, oh, corporate this or corporate that, or like government controlling my life and stuff like that. And the issue never gets addressed. But in the virtue of him saying that, he brings up like 9 other things, and you try to address them, but then he just like keeps galloping around like the fucking point. So it's like impossible to hold him down. That's why we're like kind of talking at him instead of like asking him questions or retorting to his like specific statements. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Nothing wrong with keeping it a little bit more closed in there.
If I'm being
instead of doing that, why don't you just wait? Like, just let him show us like the data that shows that the vaccine is worthless, doesn't work.
Well, I mean, we've had this conversation for a while, and it's part of the reason I was like, stop just naming a bunch of points, because that was like, we would go in on a few of his points, and then he would be like, oh yeah, well you may have dealt with those points, but here's
12 more. Here's 12 more.
About like a slightly different subject. And
I'm pretty sure I responded to virtually every single point that was made. And if there's one that I didn't respond to, state it now, and I'll make sure to respond to it.
Okay, so taking the vaccine reduces the likelihood of you getting someone else sick, you yourself getting more sick, and you generally reduce harm by taking the vaccine.
Yes or no? Do you agree?
Are you making a statement or asking me a question?
I'm making a statement, but you seem to be framing it as a question.
No. So okay, let me ask the question then. Do you agree with that? Yes or no? You have like data to suggest that that's not true.
I'm sure I can pull up a bunch of data I can pull data supporting and countering what you stated.
Sure. Okay, wait, what did you say? You said supporting and countering?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
But which one do you believe?
Yeah, which one do you believe? Right now, you're saying here right now, which one do you believe?
Yeah.
Do you believe like right now, if like, let's say like 90% of people in the US got the vaccine, do you believe we would see any kind of reduction in hospitalization?
Keyword there is believe. I need to see the data to support that, and if you have data, send it to me. Because my belief on the matter is inconsequential. It's what is called a non sequitur. It doesn't matter.
Yes, I agree. Wait. Here's why, Vincent. If the vaccine was like shown to be like crazy effective, like 90% effective, would you be for the mandates?
I wouldn't be for the mandates. No.
There we go. Okay.
That's a good question. Actually, wait. So you're saying like right now, if we could show you data showing that like if we did get to like 90%, like it would have like a huge drop off in like COVID hospitalization and stuff like that. Like potentially, I think I quoted like an article saying like there'd be 10,000 less deaths. Or saying you would still be against the vaccine mandate.
That was like two questions in one.
No, it was one.
That was one question.
It's the same question. He's just asking hypothetically if that were the case, would you be for the mandates?
I'm sorry, state the question one more time.
All right. So imagine we could know for a fact, crystal ball, right? No, I don't know crystal ball. Let's say, yeah, the facts are 100% true. If we enforce the vaccine mandates, we'd have 10,000 less deaths over a 4-month period. Would you be for or against the vaccine mandates?
I would still have to cite on the individual liberty. Yeah.
This is what I mean. I think that's fine. Like that's a different argument.
I want to go into
but
this.
if you're
I'm just more curious about the other risks, if any of them.
I'm especially curious about the risks. I just linked it. For example, I just linked in the general chat a clinical trial related to the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. Its estimated study completion date is July 30th, 2023. That's a year and a half from now. So for anybody to suggest in this chat, that they can bring me conclusive scientific medical expertise or data that says, yes, X, Y, and Z are going to happen if we enforce vaccine mandates, clearly the studies are not even completed. So maybe we should revisit this in July 30th, 2023, when some of the clinical trials are finished.
Okay.
So one, I don't even think that's like accurate at all. But two, like,
how is that not accurate? I just linked it in the general chat.
No, because like because that wouldn't matter. Because like we've seen like counties where they have taken the vaccine have like a lower like hospitalization.
And we've seen counties that are 80%. We've seen counties that are
suggesting like there's another like mechanism like in play.
Well, yeah, we see that Israel is one of the most vaccinated countries, and they have some of the highest cases. We saw a case in a county in Massachusetts where 87% of the people were vaccinated, and they had some of the highest case rates, what they're calling breakthrough cases. We're seeing this all across the country.
The Israel thing, when I had like somebody look into it, was that the immunity response from the vaccine was starting to expire given the amount of time in which they had gotten the vaccine. It wasn't that the vaccine didn't work, it was that the amount of time in which it was from when they got started had been so great that the effectiveness and immunity response had started to wane. The effectiveness, the study into the effectiveness takes at least 3 years, not to show that it works or doesn't. It's about the duration in which the immunity response reacts. And
I think it goes into much more detail than that.
Side effects of it. It's the information that we currently have indicates pretty heavily that the vaccine works.
It goes into much more detail than that. I mean, that's like, as an example, this is one clinical trial. There are thousands of clinical trials taking place for Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, whatever the fucking Chinese vax is, whatever the Russian vax is. There are clinical trials all over the place, and you have to look at what phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 clinical trials entail, because it's much more involved than just saying, oh, it's looking at the effectiveness. That's actually not the case. If anything, the one that I linked to you has one primary outcome, 7 secondary outcomes. It has criteria. It has people that can and cannot be included in this particular study. Yeah, to suggest that these clinical trials are just looking at the effectiveness is totally not true, because it especially looks at things like side effects, long-term effects. We have absolutely zero long-term data on this shot. None.
I mean, the study you linked just refers to effectiveness.
Yeah, I was just about to say
that.
Like,
That's that study in particularly.
The primary and secondary all say effectiveness against certain things that the virus could do. So like ED transmission, hospitalization, against hospitalization and admission, severe hospitalization. That it's all about effectiveness.
Yeah, there's a study going on in Albania, Denmark, China, Japan, Canada, Lithuania. Like I say, there's studies all over the place.
Why are you guys arguing about the merits of the vaccine? It doesn't matter, right?
Saying, it wouldn't matter to them anymore.
Well, because
even if it was like a super god, like
I've got like
individual liberty, right?
I've got a question that maybe like could be kind of discussed beyond this, because it seems like this is just getting hung up on like whether people believe that the vaccine is actually truly effective or not.
Well, it's not even that. he's like already like the other guy asked a
I'd
great
say-
question. He's like skip past that. Even
Yeah,
if
no.
it was ultra effective, he just
No,
wouldn't
it-
for it.
I'd say he's just grasping for straws because.
Well, you
Okay,
said
well, I
you
was
said
gonna
if it
ask,
was
is
super
this
effective
something
and
that-
you could show data to prove it, then would I be for a government mandate? That's actually asking two things in one. That's asking, number one, would I get a medical procedure if it's super effective? And that's asking, number two, do I support government mandate / intervention? So it's you. I mean, you really asked two questions in
It's
one.
it's an if statement. No, he's asking you an if statement.
Yeah.
And you said no, because like I said from the beginning, you can't argue with this guy because he's like big pharma, big corp, big government. Like you can't get into it because they're like, I would say for the most part, it shows that vaccines are effective. So like, should we get the mandate then? And like, well, no, I still wouldn't be for it. It's like, okay, then there you go. That's your stance. Like you just wouldn't be for mandates just because you don't want them. That's fine.
Yeah,
and
Arizona
all
has seen about
Israel-
50,000
Well,
breakthrough COVID
is there
cases.
like a number of like, let's say it was like hypothetical scenario, right? Not COVID, some mystery kind of virus where it was killing like projected like no government like intervention, it would kill half the population. Would you say like government intervention would be necessary then? There's like an upper limit to when you would say like these individual liberties can be taken away by the government.
I mean, we keep getting into hypotheticals.
That's the whole point of the argument.
Not really. Not really. I mean,
just let him answer, please.
not really. Arguments are generally about talking about what's concrete, not what's possible. I mean, I could say that in the event that we have a tidal wave that hits California, breaks it off into the middle of the ocean, are you guys going to move out of California, go to Arizona, or are you guys going to get a fucking pontoon boat and try to ride the wave? Like, what's the purpose of having that argument?
Stop for a second. Can you just answer the question?
State the question again.
Okay, so mystery virus shows up, right? We have a crystal ball. We can see like if there's no government intervention, it's going to kill half the population. Would you say then that government intervention is worth having, even if it will strip away individual liberty?
I mean, again, we have to define what the government intervention is.
So vaccine mandate. Just force people to get a vaccine.
Yeah, the government. Yeah,
Well, see, you're.
Stop.
Yeah.
Let him
Wait,
answer,
we've got that
please.
crystal ball. What happens if we don't do it then?
If we don't do it, half the population dies.
All right, there you go.
It's really. I don't like.
He doesn't want to answer. He doesn't want to say no.
I don't.
Hypothetical.
Based on
Try
the
and fight
hypothetical,
the
I see no reason why you shouldn't. But again, that's not looking at any other risks.
Yeah, it's
Totally irrelevant.
it's for one, it's not a risk-based approach. It's not looking at anything else, and it's not looking at any other data that already exists. Like let's give the theory, since you guys like theories and hypotheticals. Let's give the theory that some fucking super virus comes along, it's totally immune to every natural supplement, prophylactic, early treatment, HCQ doesn't work, IVM doesn't work, vitamin C doesn't work, vitamin D doesn't work, vitamin A doesn't work, vitamin E doesn't work, vitamin K2 doesn't work. Let's just say that it blows up our entire fucking medical system and we have no clue how to handle this thing. Would I support a vaccine mandate? I would almost have to say no. Because and why because if it was such a clusterfuck that it blew up the entire healthcare system, why would I then latch back onto that same system to support it?
What? Okay.
So is it not like a case of like you're more like currently right now it's more like an individual liberty thing, but with the other example you're more worried about like the possible side effects. Is that what you're saying? Or what? Like, I don't really understand your answer.
No. What I'm saying is that there are multiple different ways that individual people can control the spread, treat themselves, which in turn treats others, of viruses, bacteria, illnesses, colds, flus, you name it. There are so many things.
So what if people don't do that?
Dude.
No, okay, so it's very simple. Like again, we have a crystal ball. We saw what happened when there was no government mandate. We saw what happened when we didn't take away individual liberty. I'm just talking about your individual liberty stuff point. No, I know that's from before. I just want to know if there's like a upper bound to that. If like you just don't care if like half the people die because like you value individual liberty that much.
Well, so he did answer your question. The part that you missed is like what he's saying is like, okay, so let's say we have a system in place, and because of that system, we failed, so we have like 50% like mortality rate, right? Then he would say, well, why would I latch onto that system to like try and help me if it failed me in the first place?
No, but that's not like an answer to the question. You understand that's not an answer?
Yeah, I know. I'm saying, like, I'm not sure if you like understood what he was saying, so I was just like reiterating it for you.
No, yeah, I understood that. I was just like, I'm explaining to him now, like Vincent, you, just so like you know I'm talking to you. Like,
I got you.
I'm trying to see where the like, how far you take individual liberty.
Man, that's like, man, I was trying to ask you guys the same question of where do you draw the line of government intervention?
So for me, it's really easy, right? So like for me right now, if it was the case that like I could save 10,000 people, the vaccine mandate immediately, right? For me, it's probably 500. It's not that hard.
Mortality rate or any other risk.
No, I'm saying like this again, crystal ball. If we could just like, no, I'm saying crystal ball right now. If we could just like, know for a fact 10,000 less deaths if we caused like a vaccine mandate, I'm down already. That's like my line. I'm about your line right.
See, let me tell you this. The reason these hypotheticals are very difficult to answer in such a concrete fashion. I'm gonna give you guys an example. You guys might grill me for this, but I'm gonna fucking do it anyways. Now, as I said earlier, I like guns. I think guns are fantastic. I've been a gun owner all my life. Now, I just want to ask, I don't want to get into the gun debate yet, but does anybody here not support individual gun ownership? Just yes or no question.
No.
It depends on the firearm.
All right, depends on the firearm, whatever. So now if we're going to make a public health argument, as again, this is just kind of a loose example here. If we're going to make a public health argument, there's an estimated about 40,000 gun deaths per year over year. It's been pretty consistent, about 40,000. Half of those are suicides. Half of that half are gun related, and half of that half are just kind of all sorts of other things, assault weapons being about 300 to 400 per year, whatever. The estimated amount of lives that guns save are anywhere from 500,000 to 2 million people per year. So the loose dichotomy that I'm making here is that it doesn't make sense to limit the individual liberty of owning firearms when 500,000 to 2 million people are saved year over year, yet there is that push to limit the individual liberty, the individual ownership, in favor of saying, oh, we're going to save X amount of lives, 300 lives, 3,000 lives.
Stop. We're not going into the gun debate. We're not. Just let him get to this point.
No. He wasn't bringing in the gun debate. He was using.
I get the example, and it's piss poor.
No, but he hasn't like finished yet. Can Vincent finish? Be done.
We made the
finish the
connection.
sentence.
Yeah.
Vincent, you done?
Yeah. So that's kind of the gist of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Vincent, there wasn't a point there. Like I stuck up for you for no reason. You didn't make a point.
I did make the point.
No, Vincent, like one, I know your facts are wrong, but that's completely irrelevant, right? Well, you gave a situation where there's like a cost-benefit analysis. If I take away guns, I save X amount of people from suicide, right? But I also potentially kill Y amount of people because these are people that guns are protected, right?
Sure.
This is like very different from the scenario where it's, if I don't do anything, crystal ball, we know this amount of people die, and that's it, right?
I mean, that's an
versus like the track.
Hold on.
Take away your personal liberty, and it's okay.
Why does everyone talk over progenitus?
Right? But it's okay for some people to like value individual liberty just like by itself. Like,
why does everyone talk over progenitus?
Die and not have it, right? But it's like different from what we were talking
progenitus,
about.
go ahead.
Sorry, like I think you're trying to talk, but your voice is like muffled. Like, can he hear you?
He is a bit low. Though.
Who is?
Progenitus.
What was it?
Yeah, I hear what you were trying to say. Like, I think Vincent was saying like we should let you talk. I can hear what you were trying to say. I think you're trying to interrupt me as well too. So
no, I tried to interject something very quickly, but yeah.
Well,
do you understand like why that's like not like irrelevant? If it was the case, for example, like if like an argument you could have made from that.
I mean, I don't see these radical hypotheticals as relevant to the discussion whatsoever. I don't see this, oh, let me say that I have a crystal ball and this is going to happen. It's going to be the Black Plague. I don't see these as relevant whatsoever.
Right. Let me explain the relevance, right? Because before we discussed like vaccine like efficacy, right? And like we're going through the discussion, and like we're trying to find out like what is true.
Yeah, no, but
And
if
the
you had
murder
this
advocate
crystal
question
ball that
asked, like,
50%
if
of
this
people
was
are going to
true, if
die, I
this
think
was
we have much
credible,
bigger
right?
problems on our hands than a fucking vaccine mandate.
So Lemur then like just asked a good question and skipped all this and said like even if this was the case, would you like be in favor of like a vaccine mandate? You said no. And so like all I'm trying to do, like normally that's where I would just end the discussion. But, like it's interesting to just try and figure out like with the personal liberty types, right?
Yeah.
Like where your limit of this is. That's all this is
Yeah, I get that, and it's like I say, you know, if 50% of the people are going to die by this crystal ball radical theory that we brought up just out of the sake of conversation, this hypothetical, I think we would have much bigger problems on our hands if 50% of the global population died than a vaccine mandate. I think we would have much bigger problems.
They die if there's no mandate, right? If you don't strip away their personal liberty. That's the important part about it.
Yeah. See, it's like in the sense of the hypothetical again, there wouldn't be any reason necessarily to go against it unless you just felt like you didn't want to. But again, with stripping away the liberties, getting them back is an interesting thing.
Yeah, it's like what do you have to sacrifice, and then how do you get it back? Because once you sacrifice your individual liberty, you have to fight to get it back. You have to fight to restore it.
Not necessarily. Sometimes it just comes back.
How does it come back?
It never comes back.
How does it come back?
When we were in lockdown, we just never came back from that.
We said 15 days, and we're still fucking here.
We're still in lockdown, right?
Yeah,
we're not
the
in
virus
lockdown.
is still spreading.
Oh, so we got our liberties back.
I mean, it's spreading with a mortality rate of less than 3%.
Listen, folks,
Okay,
listen.
so
Let's just keep marching on to the inevitable eradication of the human species and be happy with that. Let's fucking just march. This is where we're heading anyway, right?
Hey man, if AOC says the whole planet's gonna fucking disintegrate in the next 12 years if we don't do something, we should be having the biggest party of our lives right now.
Not the guys of the fucking moon. They didn't say it.
I have a valid point on this, but no one wants to let you speak.
No, go.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Grayson. Sorry.
So, you're against vaccine mandates. Currently, we already have vaccine mandates for measles, mumps, and rubella, which case
Not considering
the
religious
efficacy,
exemption.
which case the efficacy of these are about 90% after you go through the first couple of doses. And of course, after a while, you do have to get booster shots. There's also, what was it?
Why doesn't my employer look at my measles, mumps, and rubella vaccination record?
Because you haven't asked nice enough.
Do they actually? I don't know if that's...
have a massive outbreak of measles, mumps, or rubella because we very well knocked the fucking shit down because we've had vaccine mandates.
Right,
And keep it down.
And to be fair, if you're not homeschooled, right, you already have like vaccine schedules, so it's like presumed that you already do have these vaccines in place. I think if there was like an outbreak, like he's saying, then like they'd be like, yeah, maybe we should look at people's cards and see like
And
what.
by the way,
vaccines
some
have come in.
employers do check that stuff.
So what level?
In Poland, they do check your vaccination records depending on like your job position. So they may ask what's called a health book, basically, to see if you're up to date with your vaccinations.
What amount of your health should be private versus public?
I mean, it depends if it hurts like other people's health. Like
Define hurt.
I mean, your health always has the potential. So I'm happy for all my health
It's
records
like-
to be
Hold on. We're not talking about making your medical history public. We're talking like these agencies being able to verify whether or not you're a risk to other people within the agency or people that you come across in the service of your role in the agency.
I mean, are y'all asking whether they should ask or whether they should just be able to like find that information?
Should we just eliminate all fat people, considering that they were like 70% of COVID deaths, and that they don't put in the work to fucking exercise? Because naturally, colds, flus, viruses, bacteria that latch onto inflammation, which is contained in the fat cells. So should we just get rid of fat people? Should we mandate exercise?
I think
absolutely.
Obesity kills a lot of people.
Should we mandate exercise?
No, maybe we should regulate how much sugar there is. Maybe we should have like school regulation. This is a stupid point. I gotta be
Sugar
honest.
taxes are good. You're right. That's a good government intervention for reducing obesity.
You just walked into like the perfect one.
Yeah, it's like I think the
It'll take my sugar away from me.
Should we mandate exercise? Should we mandate certain eating schedules? Look. I always thought this. If a bartender
For my soda, I did
look
not speak up because I was
if a bartender
Honestly,
Holy
you,
shit,
you
those
help
guys.
a lot of people's health banning soda. Holy fuck.
look if a bartender
Good regulation is a thing. They give you the liberty there, but not in something them injecting your arm though.
Hey, if a bartender can look somebody in the eye at 1 a.m. and say, "I'm sorry, sir, I think you've had enough," I think that the fast food worker can look at a fat slob and say, "I'm sorry, I think you've had enough."
That's bait.
Nice. Excellent.
You know, I wish that was the case.
Like, I have a question about the obesity.
I would appreciate it personally if I was at the Taco Bell at 4 a.m. and be like,
I
no,
would
no,
love to do that without getting fired. Yeah.
Aren't fat people a risk to my health just as much as anybody else? They're highly susceptible to getting certain colds and flus. They're obviously not keeping their BMI in check. They're obviously not keeping their vitamin levels in check. Hell, they could be a fucking diabetic. They could be doing all sorts of shit affecting me.
My vitamin levels are perfect, dude.
Are you saying that because fat people exist, you don't need to get vaccinated? Or exist?
Yep.
Yes, he's
I mean, if they die less quicker. Yes.
No, I'm trying to make the same public health argument that's being made to me. I think that we have significantly bigger fish to fry when there's basically an epidemic of obesity in this country.
Do this fish, and then we can do the other fish.
We can do multiple things at the same time, given that we have a large army.
You say walk and chew bubble gum?
Yeah, and I think the jab and like AOC's Green New Deal portrays the underlying issue of like the reason being.
If you guys are trying to walk, why don't you suggest chewing bubblegum?
I tried.
Hey, 5 gum, dude, stimulate your senses.
Walk and chew a cellular stick.
What were you saying, Crazy?
I tried to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time, but then I just ended up biting my tongue.
Dude,
Oh.
I just ended up face plating, dude. I've been there, dude.
I hate that. I hate biting.
Hey, I ate 5 gum and it stimulated my senses.
I wanted to kick ass and chew bubblegum, but I ended up eating somebody's ass.
All 3 of them.
Wait, hold on, really quick. I want to make 2 points really quick, because then I gotta
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to make 2 points really quick before I gotta leave. So one, it's kind of pointless arguing with this guy because he already made his position like really clear, and I think it's fair. Like whether you disagree with it or not, he said like if 50% of the population died, he still stands that like people shouldn't be regulated, right? So it's kind of pointless to like debate mandates with him anymore because that's just the way he feels. And number 2, real quick, Vincent, just so you understand, because you seem really confused about this. When people bring up hypotheticals, it isn't to like trick you or put you in this like weird world. What it does is it forces.
Kind of seems like it is in this respect.
Okay, but what they're actually trying to do is they're trying to make you like logically walk through like your thought patterns to see if you're logically consistent. That's why people are giving you hypotheticals. That's it.
That's a pretty fucking radical hypothetical to check on somebody's logical consistency.
Can I give this a go?
No, that's really it. Mongoose, have a good one, dude.
So hold on. Giving me a hypothetical. You giving me a hypothetical about 50% of the people dying by a super virus is not a radical hypothetical, but me talking about the obesity epidemic is too fucking out there to do your own public health measures, your own guys' public health measures and suggestions of mandating them to exercise, mandating them not to eat certain foods or certain sugars. That's too radical, but you're going to give me this absolutely insane suggestion of a super virus? Are you out of your fucking mind? Are you out of your fucking mind?
It's nice meeting you. I gotta dip really quick. Let me just answer real quick. I gotta dip.
I can answer real quick.
That hypothetical of yours, the hypothetical of like that Sherkan portrayed, actually got me to the conclusion that like you're logically through like libertarian the way you are. So it was actually useful in that situation. So I know you want to view it as like a negative experience, but it actually got me to be like, oh yeah, this guy just like doesn't give a fuck about like mandates and governments. That's just the way he feels. That is.
Yeah,
like,
but
so now we know how you
That
feel.
I mean that's inaccurate. That's an inaccurate characterization.
You don't consider yourself a libertarian? Because it's something I've been wanting to ask you. Do you
No.
consider yourself a libertarian? No?
I don't think he's libertarian.
Because you're not a libertarian because you like to spout libertarian ideas except for the idea of non-aggression. So you're okay with everything libertarian, like small government or reduced
Wait,
government,
define
except for the fact that you're not
non-aggression.
allowed to hurt other people?
Define non-aggression.
Okay, so do you
law
think it's
you can't
okay to
murder
walk
people.
up to someone and punch them in the throat?
Or murder them.
Yeah.
I mean, live and let live.
Okay, well then, yeah, fuck you. Don't get the vaccine.
I'm not.
Be a dick.
I'm not gonna walk up and
Kill you
punch
by
someone in the
making it
face.
because it's okay by your own morals.
Oh my god.
Okay.
In a video game. In a video game.
No.
In a video game. In a video game.
I gotta be honest,
Shut
but
up,
that
shut
didn't,
up.
that didn't really help at all.
Yo, don't do that shit again, bro. I'm a ban you.
There's no talking to this guy. We've been walking around this.
I don't care. Can't say that.
There's no hypothetical.
The man is smoke as long as we all know it's a joke.
Motherfucker said I'm a hypothetically kill somebody. Shut up, dog.
Hey, calm down. You guys are like adults.
Also, I think like no one disagreed on like the fat shit, but like you're running on autopilot. You've been debating people for so long, you just like assume the room is against you.
No, the room is against me.
No, we were talking in good faith earlier. I was actually having a real conversation with
It
this
seemed
guy.
like you guys were more against him in the beginning, but it did round itself off.
Also, if I can make a point on the
Well, you're really quiet.
Go ahead, crazy.
The obesity epidemic does need to be addressed, but unfortunately, the current big problem is we got this massive virus that's going to kill a lot of people. We need to take care of that.
Why didn't we?
We can also worry about the obesity epidemic and try to knock down a lot of the weight on people's shoulders, hips.
What stopped us? Look, I'm 27 years old, okay? I haven't heard a single public health effort to reduce obesity.
Can you let a crazy talk? Jesus.
Yeah,
obesity takes years to knock down versus getting people vaccinated for a virus, which may take 1 to 2 years. 1 to 2 years versus decades.
I'm sorry, but it only takes a few weeks to tear down an obese person if, stop feeding him.
You're not tearing me down in a couple of weeks.
No,
I'll
that's
tell you
wrong.
that.
That's
Absolutely wrong.
That's the dumbest take I've heard.
What's that? They got
Hey,
they got plenty of fat stores to keep them, keep
Keep
them alive.
Maybe-
Whoever fucking said that, just stop eating forehead.
Come on,
you can
guys.
actually die. Hold on, shut the fuck up.
Come on, it's for public health. What happened to public health?
Okay. Whoever said, can I please? Because I actually know on this subject. Fucking subject.
Go ahead,
You can't just like stop feeding the fucking fat person forehead because then
Yeah,
you
I'm
will
still
actually
gonna
fucking
keep
die. You actually get heart palpitations because I'm fucking diabetic and I have fucking ketoacidosis, which is the same fucking thing.
Hold on. Slow down. Easy, Shapiro. Slow down.
And there's also
not
the
that
issue that the COVID thing is spread unknowingly, and you can't really say, hey, I don't want this to be spread to the virus if you have it. As for morbidity, it takes a bit of you can't spread your obesity to other people non-consensual.
You're right, but you're more susceptible of contracting colds and flus.
The effects of your obesity affect other people, though.
Like, question, hang on, actually, can I ask you a hypothetical? This makes perfect sense to do. Like, hypothetically, if our country had, like, something crazy, like 78% obesity or 90%, like, how do we, like, function as a society? Like, where are the cops going to come from? Where are the officers? Like, can you imagine having to do a D-Day with, like, 400-pound tubby bubbies?
No, George Carlin already solved this. It's the Flagellant Airborne Reaction Team.
I can't hear what he's saying, I'm sorry. What did you say?
All I said was the real pandemic is fat asses. Now you're getting it.
Would be like Wall-E, where all the people just running around.
It's
Wall-E.
The guy is like against it, like who like brought this up as like a counter. Like, what would you do in that scenario where like our country just couldn't function because we're all too fat?
Yeah, force people on diets, essentially starve them and make them lose weight and get back in shape.
Or put them in the military, dude.
I wouldn't say starving, but I agree with that.
I'm obviously mean.
Okay. I just
listen. They literally invented a pallet jack for obese people in US, so I think we would adapt.
Nice.
Yeah, like even more like fundamentally, like if we have before we got to a point where society would be dysfunctional, I feel like if we got to that point, like food would become scarce to the point where people couldn't be able to like get obese that easily, right?
Well, not necessarily. It's not always like
kind of like if society's completely dysfunctional because no one can do anything, like, the conditions by which we have like an abundance of food would kind of disappear. Right?
I mean,
do like preventative measures, like instead of currently trying to like have obese people be unobese, like we just take the measures to prevent people from being obese to begin with.
I mean, that's true, but then we have to ask, what do we do with all the fat people we have now?
I think
The real fix of the problem.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, prioritize. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's something to keep in mind when it comes to like talking about what you want to do with obese people.
I say we mandate they talk to Vincent so that they exercise by working their jaw too much.
I do have a
Instead of,
sharp
mandatory
jawline.
military service, it's mandatory gym time.
I mean, maybe. Actually, you know what? That actually be super awesome.
I mean, because hey, that's not a bad thing. It doesn't really
That's-
infringe on anybody.
dude.
It's just like go to the fucking gym. You
No, like that would be
I don't know
awesome.
what
Like, do you
infringes
imagine
on
like your
liberty
local
tacos.
community had like mandatory gym time?
Yeah, you get like you also build like a better community, and it also helps the community church aspect.
Correct. Yeah, you know how cool
I
it
can
is. Like,
tell you things about the whole problem of obesity in the United States. Right now, we have a lot of people that are overworked, underpaid, underslept, and unable to have the time available to them to go and actively mind their diet, mind their exercise.
Well,
obesity.
Also,
is
one
like,
question. Where did you guys
some of
learn
the
nutrition?
cautions.
Where did you guys learn nutrition?
There's also
Where did I
school
learn?
that.
Where did I learn nutrition? I read a shit ton of fucking medical studies over pretty much since I was in high school.
Where I'm leading with this question is there any education in schools? Because like I didn't have shit.
There's virtually no education in the schools.
Very little at
Very
mine.
I got maybe.
Is this really the issue?
Your parents are
All you gotta
responsible.
do is
Part of it,
Yep. What did that guy
all you
just
gotta
say?
do-
His
all you gotta
parents
do
are
is
responsible.
Google healthy meal and healthy meals, and so I mean, I feel like that's not really the issue.
Hey, should the government mandate that parents buy specific foods for their fat ass slobs of a children?
I have 2 kids that eat
Crazy,
vegetable
could you-
like candy.
Crazy, could you repeat yourself?
So let's say those parents that you're talking about are working 60 hours a week, having to essentially work every day, all day long, and then come home and tend to their kids. Those kids are going to be malnourished because they're going to be most likely getting junk food, fast food, or quick to cobble together food instead of something that was pre-planned and mindful of nutritional value and all that fun stuff.
Yep.
So a lot of that also occurs because we have an extreme poverty issue in the United States, whether or not we want to admit it or not. So
I don't think it's that hard.
I wouldn't say necessarily extreme poverty, but
it's extreme. It's extreme in that
It's
there
improv.
are enough. It's
yeah,
enough
poverty
to
is an issue. No
overcome
doubt.
problems.
Everywhere.
If you go and I'm sure that there's probably data on this to calculate the number of hours worked versus the amount of income per household. That itself would probably account for true poverty, in my opinion. Like, yeah, you may have one household with.
Yes,
like,
but this
4
goes
people.
back to the walking and chewing bubblegum. You're right. We need to work on poverty as well, and we need to have we need to
It's
also
a
move
human
forward
rights
on
thing.
public health things like obesity. Like obesity is a problem.
You see that's what messes me up
But we
is
don't want to
that
treat symptoms. We don't want to treat the symptoms of the problem. We want to treat the core of the problem. So where is that necessarily? If you think about it.
Hey,
I mean,
honestly, like maybe giving the FDA some sharper teeth. Like maybe we mandate food a little bit stricter and things like vaccines a little stricter.
Okay.
Like I don't know. That's just
Well, if we did that, we want to make sure that people that are mandating that shit are know what they're talking about at least.
If the idea is that parents don't have enough time to take care of this for their children, then give parents time. Why do you need to mandate shit?
No,
Bro, I'm eating my
we need to
third
do
pizza of the
everything at
week, not
once.
because I don't know the food pyramid, but because I literally don't have time to cook. And
Just tell the parents.
Yes,
to stop
and then
working.
that's leisure. Society's leisure.
So if you mandate the ingredients.
Well, yes. Well, that's also based on things that we have for granted in today's society.
it's also based on the individual liberty to say fuck you, I'm eating 3 pizzas this week.
If you mandate the ingredients that companies are allowed to use, then even the microwave pizza will be healthier. I'm not saying it's a full solution, but it is something that could be done. For instance, it's an
You
example.
should also mandate portion sizes like they do in a lot of EU countries as well.
Yeah, the EU has just generally better food mandates, and even the pre-prepared microwavable bullshit meals that are unhealthy are way healthier than in the US.
That would
Which
be
is
interesting.
why.
That would be interesting because you got to make sure there's no room for corruption with this kind of business. Because when
Oh
you
my God,
really,
even
that's
with
why you
corruption, should it still net
Well, there's
better?
oversight.
No, I know. No, I'm just again. Don't take me so seriously, guys. Just like again, if like when you give power like that, especially with food control, that's sketchy. You want to make sure
there already is food control.
Okay, hold on. I think we're
it's
getting
more
lost.
severe than what is already implemented. You know what we're talking about.
Guys, I think we're getting lost in the weeds talking about like, oh, the food needs to be regulated. But the truth is like, honestly your calorie intake. You can make like the instant pizza a lot healthier, but you can eat enough of it to become obese. It's not just like, oh, it has X amount of percentage fat. If you eat enough of it, of course you're going to be turning obese. So the problem is that we have very, well, I mean, it's a benefit, but it's an abuse benefit that we have very calorie dense foods. So why is this like the reason why obesity happens is because you get high. Yeah, you don't get nutritional value, but you have very high calorie dense foods. You can eat like a fucking McDonald's every day if you burn away the actual calories. You actually can, like legit. Like I have to fucking look at my nutrition because I'm a diabetic, and I can tell you, like, yeah, I eat like shit, but the reason why I'm thin is because I eat a pizza, but this is like my only meal for like the next 36 fucking hours.
Well, I mean, isn't part of the problem though? It's not even just about just being fat, but like nutritionally, like healthy too. Like you could be thin, but you could also be.
Well, yeah. Well,
you could be thin but nutritionally deficient.
Obesity is in itself like an inflammation, correlated with inflammation.
Yes.
Like being thin and unhealthy is, of course, it's possible. It's possibly metabolically unhealthy, but just being thin in itself, all else equal, will make you healthier.
Right. Well, yeah, obviously, it will make you massively healthier.
So, and the point about like Jesus Christ, you read my mind. Like the point about calorie density is like very important. I feel like even if you eat like really badly, you could say, you can still be relatively metabolically and physically healthy if you just control for like caloric
Correct.
density.
Yep. You're not wrong. Essentially, you want to keep the levels low so your body can essentially push it out and just filter it out because that's what it does.
Well, not low. You want to match it to your activity levels. If somebody's like working an office job and they're just sitting on their ass, they don't need as much calories. But if you're like literally like doing manual labor, then of course you should be eating more because you have, well, it's energy in, energy out.
Yeah, correct. Exactly.
Yeah, you need to supplement with what you're taking.
Vitamins and minerals and all that fun stuff on top of that too.
Well, yeah, but that's I would say that's relatively easier to control.
If you're running like a low calorie intake, multivitamins probably help you out.
Well, so it circles back to the fundamental question of should the individual dictate the means and direction of their health, or should the government step in and say fuck you, fat ass, enough?
It depends on how much they're like hurting like other people around them. Like that's a fundamental like.
Who's gonna quantify that?
Disgustingness. So
Who's gonna quantify that?
All right, no fat shaming. Come on.
No, that's not even likely.
Healthcare. Should our tax dollars pay for their
They put
healthcare?
danger in other people that aren't necessarily obese.
Yo guys, I live in Spain. My wife's father, he's not fat, but he has a very big belly. He's 81. He can walk, he can do everything. And I was like, why the heck is this dude so freaking healthy? Even he doesn't really look thin, but he has a big belly, but that's it. And when I realized he drinks a lot of water on a daily basis, he eats very simple, and he always eats a meat.
This is like the just touch grass
Wait.
example.
Food and lots of water.
He eats. Wait. He eats a piece of meat, a little salad, and the fruit. The dude look.
You don't need like a lot of each. You just need like
Yeah. And I thought, no man, you kind of eat weird. I thought, man, you're gonna die very soon. Guess what? My father died first, and I was like, damn, you're right. You're 81. You run quick. He won't save my baby from a car. I'm happy.
Wait, hold on. You said you're from Spain. Was your father smoking?
What?
You said you're from Spain. Did your father smoke?
Oh my. No. My father doesn't smoke. He doesn't drink. It's just he had very bad eating habit. My father's from the Caribbean island, and he drank a lot of coffee.
Oh, that's.
I don't really know.
I don't think coffee is like
coffee.
pretty good.
Does anybody know anything about it?
If you drink it
too much, it's not exactly healthy.
It's not exactly.
Sure, I don't think it will exactly make you die sooner. The thing is,
keep in mind, coffee is a diuretic too.
The thing is, we don't really need like anecdotes. Like, there's a lot of.
Yeah. What's up?
Sure, not really what I'm like talking about.
No,
like,
but
about like, yeah, about eating habits and stuff. We we can see there's a ton of studies on this, and like the most fundamental thing is really the caloric restriction. We see that people who are calorically restricted live longer, they're a lot healthier. It's not, of course, what you eat is like, of course, naturally important, but but people like will make these ads about, oh, if you just eat this diet, you'll be a lot healthier. Like, but really, we see that on an aggregate level, and there's anecdotes we can see. Oh, I knew this person who lived very long. Oh, my grandfather smoked a lot and he lived till he was 94 or whatever. But there on the macro level, we can. There's no need to really speculate or give anecdotes because we can see what really is healthier and isn't healthy.
Right.
It's really pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so it
One thing I want to bring up
rely on the
also
individual.
from like my own personal research, what's actually kind of amazing that people don't think about is just how dense, calorie dense the food is. So the typical three-course meal of like, let's say meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and some sort of like a salad with Thousand Island because I drowned that shit in it. I'm sorry, I love it. That has the equivalent caloric intake of like, let's say like a full Snickers bar. I'm not shitting you. I did the fucking math and I looked at how far my blood sugar was jumping. So one, of course, like the Snickers bar, that's gonna cost like what, $2 or whatever, like versus like all the ingredients, the prep, the prep time. I mean, time itself is like money. So you can either spend like an hour or however long it takes to make the meatloaf and everything like that, and you'd get the equivalent, or you can just buy a candy bar for $2. So like that's another reason like why it's so easy to get fat, but it's so hard to stay in shape. It's just like the caloric
Yeah, 'cause staying in
intake
shape
has
takes
nothing to
effort.
do with like how expensive the food is. Yeah, it's inversely proportional, pretty much.
Yep, good point.
Yeah. Oh, also, sauces. People misunderstand how like calorie dense sauces are. People are like, oh, I'm eating a salad. This is so healthy, and they like drown it in sauce, and like that can put the
Yeah,
calories.
that's why I wanted to bring
so
it
much
up. Like,
higher.
I'm still drowning this Thousand Island sauce, and that shit, like that sauce, I'm pretty sure like has the equivalent of like 3 bowls of lettuce, if not
Yeah,
more.
true. Sometimes more. Yeah, like you'll be like.
Oh,
You'll be
depends
like
what you get.
surprised to realize. Sure, depends. There are very calorie dense sauces. For example, mustard, I'm pretty sure is like 0 calorie. There are others which are very high calorie. Like salads
Celery
can have
and
like.
vinegar is a negative calorie thing.
If you have cherry tomatoes, they're like very sugar dense. So like if you add like cherry tomatoes, they double it. Yeah.
Yeah, celery is one of the things you eat, and you literally burn more calories eating it than you do digesting it.
Oh yeah. That's another interesting thing. Like different types of foods like are more calorie like take more calories to burn. For example, protein has a higher like it takes the body more calories to digest protein than other sources. Like that's the thing to take into account.
Oh, sorry. One thing. Also, one add-on, and I'll shut up. One add-on. We look at food, but we forget to look at drinks. Like one glass of soda or like one latte. That shit. Like we all keep talking about food, but you could be eating kale and shit. But all the fucking, oh, like I'm doing like negative like 500 calories today, right? And then they drink like a fucking, macchiato or whatever those lattes are called, right?
Get black coffee, 2 sugars. Large black coffee, 2 sugars. That's it. No cream. Fuck it.
Black coffee, no
Honestly,
sugar. Come on now.
Honestly,
there you go.
if you put sugar in coffee, you're literally subhuman. You're ruining the
Like
taste of
little
coffee.
1 to 2 sugars, okay? 1 to 2, okay? Maybe
1 grain only.
like a extra large like iced coffee, but yeah.
The best.
I mean, it's a full cup, not an espresso shot, so it's pretty diluted.
The best drink is chocolate milk.
You're mixing milk, which is how do you make it? Like powdered chocolate, or because there's like one that you can mix with water to get like the same taste. But like if you drink like a glass of milk and you add like Hershey's chocolate syrup in it, that's like enough to, because like I'm a spooky, scary skeleton. Like I know like how little I need to fucking survive. I could actually survive on a glass of chocolate milk for like a full day when it comes to like calories.
Yeah, you probably could.
Incredible.
I'm 5'10" before somebody calls me a fucking Oompa
You can
Loompa.
survive off of 2 almonds and an olive for a long time, but you won't be healthier.
No, I'm talking like how much calories I burn. Like
I
with
don't
my
care.
sedimentary
Chocolate
lifestyle.
milk is holy. It is awesome. It is better than soda.
No, that's fine. You can drink your chalky milk. Just go on a treadmill after.
One question.
You can drink your chalky milk.
Maybe not all the time, but like yeah, go for it.
Is it a dark chocolate milk, a Dutch chocolate milk, or is it like milk chocolate milk, or is it like Hershey's fucking syrup bullshit?
I don't know. It's like the one you get. You get at the store.
Well, I gotta say, out of all this commotion, I'm quite glad that we found the common ground that people gotta stop being fat slobs.
How many of you are actually generally healthy here?
I'm diabetic and I smoke a pack a day, so I'm out of this.
I'll let you know how like energy drinks.
I got a
was
6-pack.
because I have a doctor's appointment and I just felt a lump on my kidney, so I'm like, oh, like this is interesting. Ooh.
Is it a boy or a girl?
It was a xenomorph.
Yeah, you're gonna find out the hard way, buddy.
It was a xenomorph.
It'll be either.
Hey, we all love
like, I'm
surprises.
like pretty much whatever on it. Like if I get cancer, it's cancer. Whatever, I'll go through.
It's not a whatever scenario.
This is the one scenario in any man's life where they would regret having a long dick. Let me just tell you.
Oh yeah, this whole thing. Yeah, I'm just hoping it's like. I mean.
You know what
my shit's
helps?
Cancer? Like,
You know what helps pass? You know what helps prevent kidney stones? Drinking water and milk, baby. The calcium.
Water
Yeah.
and chalky milk.
It-
Water and chalky milk.
You go to Spain, drink some water.
But if you drink milk,
Hey, water
the
is
calcium
important,
actually
people.
increases decreases the chance of getting kidney stones because it like binds to because the stones are made of calcium.
I